fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions. Only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
What's the deal, Panther fans? It's your boy, the Professor, a.k.a. Tony Dunn. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where we come to you live every Tuesday night, 9 p.m., and chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions. We're the voice of Panther Nation. We got our ears to the ground, and one of the man that's in tune with what's going on is here on the show, hanging out. Cody Lashney, how you doing?
Tony Dunn, what's up, brother? It's another Tuesday night, and you know we never quit. Man, listen, there's so much to talk about. It feels like every Tuesday night. I've had some change of hearts recently. There's so much stuff to talk about. But listen, one thing always remains the same. We have the most lit Panther fan chat room on YouTube, and all the gang is in the house tonight. Michael Jones, Underground West, Trill 110, Tizzy, Brad Dugan. I'm going to mess up this name, Chunk Kaloam. I don't know, dude. I'm sorry. I tried. But anyway, Tony Dunn, ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
Smash the thumbs up button, subscribe, hit the little bell to get a notification when we go live, and call into the show. We want to hear your thoughts. Really, tonight's question is going to be about who will be the Carolina Panthers quarterback next season, and what are your thoughts on Cam Newton's future with the organization and the NFL. We want to hear your thoughts on that question. Numbers 252-228-5098. Talking about Phil Snow's hiring as well. Joe Brady, the boringest guys in the world. If you want to listen to all of a sudden, we got to get Matt Rule talking again, because these guys are snooze fests. But I tell you, who's not a snooze fest? CK in the house. How you doing?
Man, living the dream. You'll be able to see my beautiful face here in just a few minutes. But yeah, it's going to be I think come to Jesus moment tonight when we start talking about the reality of the quarterback situation. So it's going to be an interesting conversation, and I may be radio silent for about 15 minutes. So you guys carry the load for me.
We'll miss you, buddy.
All right, so the death comment in the chat room says, damn, we've got tech issues already. I don't know what's happening, but I hope it's working. Cody, you've been doing a lot of working, speaking of working today, and I know you've been doing a lot of writing for Draft Tech. Tell me what's going on in that world before we get into the show.
Yeah, so I want to make it a point to mention it at the start of the show. I always mention it at the end of the show, but I want to make sure everybody can hear this while we have viewers streaming in and listening to the show tomorrow. And it'll be every Wednesday going forward. There will be brand new comments for the Carolina Panthers on drafttech.com, written by yours truly. Nice. I'm putting more work into this than I ever have before. I'm giving you detailed write-ups about the players that I'm talking about when we draft. I write first and second round comments for the Carolina Panthers. And look, we have a top 10 pick. So that means I'm going to be writing about all the best players in this year's draft. And I'm having a lot of fun doing it. I'm putting a lot of work into it. So, yeah, man, check it out. Drafttech.com every Wednesday, first and second round comments for the Panthers and the Houston Texans, because they decided that they would pay me to do it. So,
well, it's about time to get to know a potential draft pick, Carolina Panthers draft pick. I challenge you, Cody, for next week's show to give me a draft pick.
Oh, I'll throw 50 of them at you. But we need to get back to a way of being able to show video clips, so that way I can show the viewers every single thing that there is about the process.
Get me the clips, I'll mash them up, and I'll take care of you, just like Simply Safe Home Security will take care of you. It's like getting a commercial-grade, enterprise-level security system for your own home, and it's super simple to set up. You just pop it in. You can get motion detectors. You can get your windows hooked up, outdoor cameras, doorbell alerts, entry, motion, glass-based sensors. It's monitored 24/7 by live security professionals, and you get dispatch police dispatch up to 350% faster than a normal burglar alarm. Go to simplysafe.com/overtime. That's simplysafe.com/overtime to get your free shipping on your order, plus a 60-day money-back guarantee. That's simplysafe.com/overtime to save on your home security today. And guys, I don't know how secure I feel as I messaged you guys late last night, maybe. Probably everybody's in bed. And I said, what are we going to talk about on the show tomorrow night? And we got a couple of things. Phil Snow's in the house, this and that. And then Cody says, I want to talk about who will be the quarterback for the Carolina Panthers next year. Damn.
Yeah.
What are you even talking about? Why are you even saying these things?
Because, there comes a moment in everybody's life where, you might be in the middle of a situation where you understand the inevitable future and it might not be what you want to happen, but sometimes the writing is on the wall. And before I start to delve into this further and start talking about this in the way that I want to, Tony, if you have it prepared, would you throw up that clip of Ian Rappaport for our wonderful fans?
All right, here we go.
When it comes to Joe Brady going to Carolina, do you think his style of offense that he just brought from LSU means that Cam Newton is out because Cam wouldn't necessarily fit in that type of offense?
I would say that if Cam Newton is in his prime and healthy and without a contract situation hanging over his head, he could fit in any offense. My assumption, I shouldn't say my assumption, my belief, my understanding is that the Panthers will look to trade Cam Newton when he is healthy. We don't know for sure when he's going to be healthy. He had surgery with hopes of being healthy in March, so that is the goal. So I would expect him to be healthy in March, right around there, and for them to seek a trade with him regardless. Because remember, if Cam Newton is on the Panthers next year, he's not going to want to go out there with no guaranteed money in a greatly undervalued deal. Because Cam Newton, when he's healthy, is worth a lot more than the $18 million he's going to be paid, right?
Yep.
So he would want a new contract. Have a hard time imagining the Panthers with a completely new regime would re-up. So to me, all signs point to him being traded regardless of the offensive scheme. And I think the Panthers will start new, probably as they should.
And Panther Nation, man, fans of this podcast, let me tell you, when I heard this clip, it hit me differently. It hit me differently. And I already hear see Josh in the chat saying screw Rappaport, and Rappaport is this and that. And listen, I gotta kind of put a hold to that, man, because this is the sort of realization that I came to. Cam Newton knows he's worth more than the $18 to $20 million that he's under contract for next year. But David Tepper and the Carolina Panthers know this as well. Why would Cam Newton play for $19 million a year if, let's say, the Los Angeles Chargers are willing to sign him for $35 million for him to go to LA and play this year? Yeah. Cam Newton has a family. Cam Newton has 4 children. Now, after Lucas retired, we all know football doesn't last forever, and you have to maximize your time while you're able to play football. And the important thing to mention is that David Tepper and the Panthers know this as well. And think, if you're David Tepper, a Cam Newton injury has tanked this football team for the past 2 years in a row.
2.5 years. Right?
Yeah. So if Cam Newton comes to the table now and says, hey, listen, I would love to play with Joe Brady and play in this offense, but I'm going to need some more guaranteed money in order to do so. Well, why would David Tepper do that? That Cam Newton, unless they, for some reason, believe he will be back and healthier than ever before, Cam Newton hasn't been able to do that for 2 years in a row.
All right, two things. Two things that I want to ask before we go further is number one, who is gonna give Cam right now? And just saying the Rams 35. What is he's just gonna get 1 year for $35 million? Like,
Well,
and also with this is that if you trade him, then he goes into contract negotiations with that team, right? So my question to you is this: is how does Cam force this to happen? Because it does, I think, need to be forced. Is because why wouldn't you just make Cam play his final year under that deal? And all right, so answer that question. Then I have one other one.
well, because it's not really a matter of forcing them. So if you're David Tepper and or Marty Herney or whoever's making the decisions for the Panthers right now, and you know that Cam Newton wants more money to play football, and you're not willing to give him that money, and that's why Ian Rappaport said in that clip, they're going to look to trade him. So maybe it does come down to that. Maybe there are no interested trade partners, and they're going to end up having to cross that bridge when they get to it. But if there's going to be another football team that's willing to give up draft capital, whether it be this year or next, to move on from a player that you have so many questions and injury concerns about, then it basically kind of behooves them to do that. And another point that I wanted to make to people, David Tepper just showed the entire world with the signing of Matt Rule and Joe Brady that he is willing to throw money around in order to commit to a championship rebuild. Joe Brady's system is the definition of quarterback friendly. So it's a very foreseeable scenario where the Panthers are saying, well, look, we're going to get as much picks, as much draft capital as we can for Cam Newton while there's still a market for him. And there will be a market for him. And they can either use...
All right, that's my second question. What do you think is the reasonable value of Cam Newton in a trade scenario?
See, for me, it just really depends on what Cam Newton feels like he can do, because I got to push back on what Cody was saying with his. I feel like you're right. Cam Newton maybe feels like he is a better player than that, but I think he feels like he can be a better player than that, and he hasn't been lately. I think for him to take $19 million this year and approve a deal is kind of a gracious move from him, because he hasn't proven that he can do this, and I don't know that he can go out in the market and demand more money than that based on his production the last 2.5 years. Not saying that I love Cam Newton. I'm wearing his jersey right now, but facts are facts. The greatest ability is availability, and he hasn't been available for the last 2 years. So I feel like he doesn't have the opportunity to go out and demand this much money. He's got to prove it wherever he goes.
Well, and that's true. And my thing is this, though. I mean, you look at how many teams have a free agent quarterback going into next year. So Phillip Rivers isn't going to be back to the Chargers.
That doesn't help your trade capital, though.
Right.
Well,
exactly.
Well, so what it does, because he's on the Panthers for one more year. So what could essentially happen is, and you've seen this happen in the past, is that if a team, let's say they want, a player, they'll trade him, and they'll basically say, we'll trade him with the knowledge that you're going to try and come to a deal, or that you're going to come to a deal with this player that we're trading.
But
and
see,
okay, say you're the Los Angeles Chargers. I've been throwing this team around. Say you're the Chargers. Every single home game for the Chargers is dominated by fans of other teams. Okay, the Chargers need something to spark excitement as they're going into a brand new stadium next year. Right. Cam Newton is one of the most electric, dynamic players in all the NFL. I mean, I don't know
when
if they would
be
healthy. Right. So This is the question that every team is going to have to answer. But if I'm a betting man, I'm willing to say that there's going to be a team that's going to bet on Cam Newton enough to trade for him and sign him to an extension worth, at least a year or two worth of guaranteed money, and then they'd be able to evaluate from there. And I just don't think that David Tepper would be the one to do that. I don't think David Tepper would be the one to take the chance on Cam Newton after 2 years in a row where Cam Newton being hurt sent our entire season into a spiral.
Right. What are you realistically going to get for Cam Newton, though? And I want to shout out some people in the chat room. First, Jeff Hyde says if the Panthers ain't going to pay him, no one else is going to. I think he said that earlier.
That's kind of my point right there. Yeah.
That's kind of what I want to get to. Yeah. Another thing, Tin Tizzy said that you might be able to get a second or a couple of threes for him. You're talking about a Cam Newton, though. What do you think the real trade value for the Carolina Panthers is when it comes to Cam Newton and a free agency market that's going to be dominant? We're about to enter an unprecedented free agent market where quarterbacks are moving around like musical chairs. We're talking Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston, Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady, Teddy Bridgewater. The list continues, I think, past that probably. Now you're Andy Dalton. Now you're talking about Cam Newton. What are you realistically going to get for him right now?
So it depends on what team we end up trading with. I could see anywhere from, maybe a first round, but even if it's second or third round picks, those are picks that end up being starting players. So, and another thing that you have to think about is this too. You're going to commit so much money to Cam Newton, but all these other, like Patrick Mahomes is going to the Super Bowl under a rookie contract right now. And it's what we should have done with Cam Newton is what I would assume David Tepper and the Panthers will want to do with another quarterback, which, by the way, I reiterate, this Joe Brady guy that we just brought in has a very quarterback-friendly system. So it's more financially responsible for the team to want to move on. And by the way, don't get me twisted here. I want Cam Newton to be the quarterback for the Panthers.
I think you're more. We're not getting up. I don't think people are getting it twisted about your love for Cam. What I don't know is that the market and the leverage is there as much now. And then the other thing is, all right. So what we've talked about is this: is number one is who is that trade partner and how much are they seriously going to offer, and is that worth more than Cam is to you, even for just a stopgap year or a prove it year? We've also talked about his inability really to sit. He can't sit out. So if the Panthers wanted to force it last year, and even think about franchise tagging him after that, he can't sit out. He hasn't played football long enough in long enough time to do that. My last question then, and then we'll turn it over to everybody else, is with all of those things, which I think kind of leans against it happening, or at least against it even happening and being that great for your team, do you truly think that who would be the Panthers quarterback next year? And do you really think that Rule and Brady and all these guys, anybody in their right mind truly wants to think about what's going to happen 4 and 5 years now? Wouldn't you want to at least try to get started off on a good, who's the quarterback then? Who is the quarterback if Cam isn't?
If it's not Cam Newton, then we seriously have to talk about the names that people don't want to consider, but we have to. We got to start talking about Tua Tagovailoa being an option for us.
He's not going to be there. He's not going to be there.
I concur 100%. I don't think
that's why we got to make moves.
I don't think he falls past the Dolphins. People are convinced that they hate Justin Herbert, which I would tell people to pump the brakes on that. But and then there's also the possibility, as I mentioned earlier, of free agency. There's going to be a lot of quarterbacks that are going to be hitting the free. I'll pull it up when Greg starts talking, so that way I can have a list of all the free agents.
He's got a baby. How does CK get? Oh no, that's a
That's
picture.
a picture.
That's an old. That's like, he ain't
All right,
here.
yeah.
I
Wow.
thought he was holding a baby on camera. I got fooled.
No, but so I could very easily see a scenario which we don't have Cam Newton's contract as a burden anymore. I could very easily see them wanting to maybe sign a free agent quarterback as a stopgap and draft a quarterback in the meantime that you can develop and is actually a starter level quarterback, unlike Kyle Allen and Will Grier.
Well, the thing about this whole situation is, the first move, whatever move we make, determines everything else that happens after that. Because if we stay with Cam, that changes our draft and where we go in the future. If we decide to trade Cam, it makes us an immediate need for a quarterback to either trade for, like Cody was saying, a stopgap guy like Phillip Rivers or Andy Dalton, somebody like that.
Or can I interject and say what Josh pointed out in the chat room is those guys would cost more than Cam.
I agree, and that's why I don't think they'll go that direction. And here's the thing with Cam too: is Cam has no real leverage because, like I said, he hasn't played for the last 2.5 years almost, and he's 19 was 18, 19 million. I can't remember, one of those two. It's somewhere in between there. If we trade Cam, the other team picks up that option, and they don't have to sign him to anything. They may be looking at him as a cheap stopgap for whatever they're trying to get to. So he has no real leverage if we decide to trade him. Like, they're going to take that contract, and they're under no obligation to sign him.
I don't understand why we would. Cody, explain to me how this would be good for the Carolina Panthers.
Well, I mean, on surface face value, it doesn't seem like it would be good because we're losing Cam Newton. But I mentioned,
and you're not getting anything. What do you really get?
Well, okay, so it depends on. So listen, I'm a little bit different than you guys in thinking that Cam has a little more. Just because we think that no one's going to sign Cam Newton or no one would want to, trade or pay a player that's been hurt for 2 years. I promise you, man, there's going to be a team out there that looks at the prospect of a healthy Cam Newton, and so that Cam is going to be healthy by March. That's why he had the surgery. If Cam Newton is healthy and ready to go, there are going to be teams that, in my mind, and I could be wrong about this, that are going to be willing to sign Cam Newton to a new deal. Now, it might not be the biggest deal in the NFL, but you might see like similar to, say, Kirk Cousins, a 3-year deal, and they just kind of roll from there.
Kirk Cousins got 3 years, $84 million guaranteed.
Well, not necessarily.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
I'm not talking the dollar amount. I'm saying for that amount of time. And it depends. We don't know what Cam Newton feels that he's worth, but this is for damn sure. Cam Newton knows he's worth more than $18 million. And I'm sorry, there's no way that Cam Newton, in my mind, unless he has absolutely no other option,
but he
is going to play for that amount of money.
But it doesn't matter what he thinks. It matters what everybody who's going to pay him thinks.
And what the team
thinks. I'm worth $1 million.
Carolina owns the rights to him, and I think it would be foolish to trade him for pennies.
I agree.
And right now is that if you're just going to get a second-round pick, unless you're getting a top 10 pick, I don't even want to hear about it. And
do you
really,
think it's impossible to not get a first-round pick? Are we all just saying that no team is going to give a first-round pick for Cam?
Can I put my trade scenario out there? I know it sounds kind of fantasy footballish, but
it's just go ahead.
Okay, so this is a 3-team scenario, and like I said, this is kind of fantasy football. But if you play fantasy football with me, you know that I love to trade, and I try to make good deals for everybody. And I think this is a good deal that works out for everybody. New England gets Cam Newton and the Panthers' second-round pick plus third-round pick next year. Cincinnati gets Tom Brady and the Patriots' first and second pick this year, plus the Panthers' fourth pick next year. So we've given up a second, a third this year, and a fourth next year. And then we get the number 1 pick and Stephon Gilmore. 3-team trade scenario. It might be a little extreme. There may have to be a little more picks in there, but it could work, man. You could work something like that out.
But why would they trade Stephon Gilmore though?
Because Belichick does that kind of stuff, man. That's what he
No,
does.
All I
No,
can
no,
say
no,
is like that's the only trade right now that I am interested in because I wanted to. All right, CK, have you been listening to this?
The whole thing.
Yeah. All right, your thoughts on Cam
Replace Gilmore
Newton's
with a pick,
future
sorry.
in Carolina, and then we'll go back to this trade.
I mean, the more and more I think about it, I believe that that Cody has somewhat convinced me that Cam isn't going to be here. Not, much to my dismay, but I really, especially, and I almost think that the loss of Luke solidifies this for me. Right? This is a full-on rebuild, in my opinion, at this point in time. Like, it doesn't feel like we're just 1 year away or anything. I feel very similar, in my opinion, to the San Francisco 49ers, just 3 years ago. And where they didn't know where they were going. They didn't have a franchise quarterback. They really didn't have a defense that was going to, step up and get them in a good spot. It was, and then they ended up making a move for Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, obviously, people have their opinions on that move, but nonetheless, they've built that team up to be borderline unstoppable, right? And so I think that we have to acknowledge that. I think that this may be the end of the Cam Newton era, because I agree. I think that Cam Newton, why would he would, I can almost guarantee that he's going to find someone who's going to be able to, let's go this way. He made that cryptic post about he's not accepting mediocrity, right?
Right.
Well, when you look at his paycheck compared to the other quarterbacks in the league, he is paid very mediocre, in comparison. He's I think 16th or 17th. He's in the bottom half of the total in salary for quarterbacks. And Cam Newton, and I assure you, there's some teams out there that are going to think that he is better. A lot of people are going to look at Kirk Cousins, right? Kirk Cousins isn't that much younger than Cam Newton. He's not.
I think it was 2012.
CK, you mind if I jump in there and give you this free agent? So these are all the free agent quarterbacks that we know are going to be free agents going into this next year. Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Eli Manning, Philip Rivers, Teddy Bridgewater, Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, and Case Keenum. Now, by the way,
Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, too.
Sure.
Oh, man, yeah.
Dak Prescott, yep.
Well, they're probably going to pay Dak.
Yeah,
But they're probably going to pay a few of those players.
And another one to keep in mind, if the Bengals draft Joe Burrow number 1, then they're going to move on from Andy Dalton. So Andy Dalton's going to be another.
And he came out the same year as Cam.
So now let me. So
Ryan Tannehill, Marcus
Now, someone
Mariota.
in the chat room said that Philip Rivers might end up costing more. But okay, let's. Who would you rather have at this point in their career? I'll go down the list. We kind of did something similar last Tuesday. Would you rather have 41-year-old Drew Brees or 30-year-old Cam Newton?
30-year-old Cam Newton.
Okay. How about Tom Brady or Cam Newton?
Cam Newton. Tom Brady took a step back this year.
Okay, but Greg, tell me what you think. Cam Newton or Tom Brady?
But look, you got to give me a better, you got to lay the scenario out a little better. Are you talking about for the future, to build a franchise the next few years?
Yeah.
Right now playing.
No,
you're talking just right now playing. I'm taking Drew Brees over injured Cam Newton, any day.
Are you
right now? I think the only reason you would say that right now you would take Cam Newton over those two guys, if you're another team, if you're a third-party team, is because you're just trying to get a year out of them.
They're both shot. Drew Brees can't throw a deep pass anymore, and it's
Cam
not
Newton
because
hasn't won a game in 2 years.
Yeah, but that's
dude.
because of health. Drew Brees is 41 years old. Tom Brady,
and he was in the playoffs.
13-3. Yeah, you're right.
They had a defense.
Can we talk about this? The fact that Cam Newton, Tony, you say that Cam Newton hasn't won a game in 2 years. He's lost 8 games. When you say hasn't won a game in 2 years, you make it seem like he's been 0-16 for 2 years in a row.
And it's not
you're right
because of him.
You're right. Without context,
okay, a year and a half.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. But without context, you're right. It does sound weird.
But
it's been a long time. All right, so here's
agree.
the other thing is that as we continue to say Cam Newton, that none of this tells me that the Carolina Panthers should move on from Cam Newton. Again, I say this is sorry, Cam, you got to play next year on this deal, and if you're healthy and we like it, we're gonna extend you. If not, we're gonna franchise you. And fucking guess what? It happens to all these motherfuckers all the time.
But what's most important about a rebuild? What's most important is having draft picks.
Yeah, and money.
And we can't get draft picks out of Cam next year.
You can't even get them now.
You can at least get something.
I don't buy that. I don't buy that you're not going to be. I mean, the what round the pick is might, we can argue back and forth. Second, third. I still think it's possible to get a first, but it just depends on the football team. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots. Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, we'll give you our first round pick for Cam Newton. Just because
I'm telling you, the Patriots.
All right, so back to let's go back to Greg's trade.
And real quick on my trade. We'll go. Sorry, did you want to go somewhere else?
No, the question was, do we have to keep going down this list of people where we have to ask this insane question? Would you like this person or Cam? Would you like this person or Cam?
No, we don't have to. I'm saying but to your argument though, Cam Newton is, especially if he gets a clean bill of health, that they are able to show every football team that would be willing to trade for him, like what Ian Rappaport was talking about in that video. Cam Newton is a much better option than either one these aging quarterbacks like Breeze, Brady, and Phillip Rivers that have played their best football, that are on the wrong side of 30, and all these other quarterbacks like Jameis Winston, Teddy Bridgewater, Marcus Mariota, Case Keenum. Cam Newton has proven to be so much more and do so much more than those guys have shown the ability to do. That tells me that there is going to be more of a market for Cam Newton than people are giving it credit for. Remember earlier this past year, someone floated it out there, and they said as many as 10 teams would be interested in Cam Newton. I mean, I'm telling you, man, especially...
All right, you're talking about all this, but what then do the Panthers do to get back on track? Because waiting another year, like you have a top 10 pick right now, and you're not getting a guy that you believe can do it.
You know why? So here's the thing. You look at Dak Prescott, right? Would you consider Dak Prescott elite?
No,
man. I would say he's a good quarterback.
He's a good.
I would say
he can win a
pleasant
Super Bowl.
prize for the fifth round or third round.
Do you know what he came into? He came into the best offensive line in the league. He had a great running back, and he had at that point in time, he had the receivers that could catch the ball, right? And obviously that changed. A little
he's
bit.
been pretty good. Let's give him some credit too.
And I agree, he's been good. But what I'm saying is he is benefit. It's sort of like the Patrick Mahomes debate. Patrick Mahomes is good, but is he that good, or is it that he has got the most talented roster ever to be assembled in the NFL? I don't know, man.
I think he is too.
Well, I think both of those things can be true at the same time. I think Patrick Mahomes is special, but there is far and away no nastier offensive personnel than what the Kansas City Chiefs are rolling into this
with
Super
Andy
Bowl
Reid.
with.
Tell me, there's maybe one or two people that have ever played as a quarterback under Andy Reid and not blossomed and been incredible. So I'm telling you, like when you look at it from that perspective, I think a rebuild is almost necessary, and that may mean that Cam Newton isn't going to be here, and who we have this year may be irrelevant.
Yeah.
Well, can I tell you what?
That means we're trying to get a number one pick in 2 years, and that means, do you know how
Not
long?
necessarily.
No, look. Can I tell you what I think the safest move is? The safest move, because look, here's the thing. I know we're talking about doing a rebuild, but we do have good players. Like we do have Curtis Samuel's a good player. DJ Moore's a good player. He was a top 10 wide receiver this year.
We have the best running back in the league.
That's what I'm saying. We have good players. So that's why I have a hard time saying it's a complete rebuild. The safest thing to do is pay Cam Newton his last year of his contract, give him a prove-it year. Because the worst that happens is we get a top 10 draft pick next year. We get a good draft pick. And then we can go from there. There's a good quarterback class coming in next year. The safest bet is to pay Cam Newton
I'm
his
with
last year, have
I'm
him
with you.
play, and here's the thing: what if
My
he
mind
does
has
play?
not been changed.
If he plays really, really well, but we still have a losing record, we can still pick up a quarterback, and then his trade value is increased that much more. That is by far our safest way to go, not necessarily the best route to take, though. I mean, I know that doesn't make sense saying that. Safest and best aren't always the same thing. So it depends on where they want to go with this franchise, but it all depends on the first move made. Either Cam Newton's traded or the draft pick, whichever comes first, man, that's going to develop everything else in the future.
Yeah.
I would be more open to this conversation if there was a realistic chance of us getting Burrow or Tua. But other than that, I don't want to gamble. The worst thing that the Panthers could do is take a stab at somebody at 7 and force this and set us back years. That isn't the guy.
Right. You remember Jamarcus Russell?
You draft Justin Herbert, and he turns out to be damn Blaine Gabbert. Yeah. You don't want that either. So unless you can get the guy, I don't see how it behooves the Carolina Panthers to just see what happens next year with Cam. And if it doesn't, I mean, you could always trade him after next year, in the middle of the season, maybe. I know that's kind of ludicrous.
Well, I agree with the fact that I think it's like a 5% chance that we get Joe Burrow, right? You know, there's a very slim chance, and I would even venture to say it's lower than that. But my fear is that we give up all of this for the quarterback of the future for this rebuild, right? We have no offensive line to protect him for this whole process because we have no draft picks to be able to build up our offensive line. We have this whole situation, and then Joe Burrow turns into into Ryan Leaf. You know, that's just the last thing I want to have happen. And that, there's no way of predicting these things, but we've got to think about, is it logical now to push for the quote unquote quarterback of the future at the very beginning of a rebuild? And I don't think that's.
I think you're raising a good point right there, especially if you can't get the guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, listen, y'all might hate this, but what I mentioned earlier, Joe Brady has this great system for quarterbacks, and he was in the spread, and Matt Rule knows a lot about this as well. I would not doubt it if we decide to get a bunch of picks, save up for this year's draft and next year's draft. It hurts me to even say it, but they might kick the tires on Will Grier for another year and see what they can get out of him. And then maybe that puts you in a better position to take a Trevor Lawrence next year or a Justin Fields next year. That's stuff that we got to start thinking about. And listen, it's hard for us to talk about because we want the answer to be as simple as Cam Newton comes back and brings us to the damn Super Bowl. And I hope that happens. I think we all hope that happens. But I just feel like reading the tea leaves, it just doesn't seem like a likely scenario that Cam Newton, in my opinion, is going to play for $19 million. And I do think that some other team will agree to pay him money. Now, if they don't, then that's a problem for Cam Newton, and the Panthers can make him play. But I just don't see it getting that far. Ian Rappaport is not just being unbiased because he doesn't like Cam. I mean, I even used to say that shit a few weeks ago. It's not true. This is stuff that he is hearing from inside sources. So it might end up being all bullshit, but I don't think that it is.
T-Money 1993 says it's about developing, not drafting offensive linemen. So we'll talk a little bit more about how to go forward if the Panthers, with or without Cam, and how they continue to evolve as a team, which they will have to do. And you can read about it in The Athletic. This week's show is brought to you, sponsored by Athletic. It's a subscription-based sports news site for real fans. It's super in-depth coverage. The best beat writers have gone to the Athletic. They've been poaching them all from the dying newspaper industry. Joe Person and Jordan Rodriguez are there covering the Carolina Panthers. They also have writers like Jay Glazer, Mike Sando, and Michael Lombardi, who are national writers as well. There's no ads, no pop-ups or clickbait. It's just great sports writing and great storytelling. They have live Q&As, and you can get... Yeah, they're fun, isn't it? Where you get to interact with them.
Yeah. Joe Person, he'll respond right to a question you have and all. It's really cool. I think it's worth, definitely worth the money for sure.
You can get 40% off a yearly subscription to the athletic.com/overtime. That is the athletic.com/overtime. Make sure you do it that way. The athletic.com/overtime. You get 40% off your yearly subscription. And I tell you, if you don't have the Athletic, it's really like the one thing that I actually think is worth kind of just paying for. It's cheap, and they're always generally got what I've seen the best writers out there. And the Charlotte Observer has fallen to the depths of depravity.
The Athletic is the first media outlet I've ever paid for, and honestly, I'm going to renew it next year for sure.
Same for me. All right, let's go ahead, guys. Let's jump over to the cat calls. The number is 252-228-5098. That's 252-228-5098. Be sure to smash the thumbs up button or have your voice heard on the show by calling in.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
What up, C3? This is Ryan from Tucson, Arizona. Tony, I was the one that called and said you were a jockstrap cleaner. I have now promoted you to the sock cleaner because you've done a really good job. Craig, you've been demoted, and you are now officially the jockstrap cleaner. Jockstrap daddy. Jockstrap daddy.
Jockstrap daddy.
You said the Patriots were an up-and-coming football team prior to the 2001 season. But from 1990 to 2000, they had a 73 and 103 record. 98, they were 9-7. 99, they were 8-8. In 2000, they were 5-11. And after they got smoked by the Chicago Bears in '85, they missed the playoffs 6 years in a row. And they only made the playoffs 4 times after that. So they were not an up-and-coming football team, dude. Don't quote stats if you ain't gonna do it correctly. All right, Jockstrap Cleaner? I got more stuff for you later, but I don't have enough time to cram stuff down your throat because you've been acting like a salty little girl the last couple of weeks. Anyways, love the show. Keep pounding. Damn. And make sure you get them yellow stains out of them jock straps, buddy, all right? And get those pubes off, too. Later.
We might have to play that again for Greg.
No, I think the funny thing is Greg walked away to smoke a cigarette, so he completely missed it.
Yeah, we gotta play it. We gotta play it again, so he knows he's
right.
the
okay.
jock.
He's on blast. All right, next call.
Hey guys, Kyle from VA. I want to just touch on something real quick from last week's episode where y'all were discussing the transition for Matt Rule from college to the league. And I know Greg's not real big on the Matt Rule train yet, but I think with time that will come. I think Matt Rule's going to do amazing, and we've really put a good coaching staff together, I think, so far this offseason. But one of the things that Greg was saying that he thinks is a disadvantage in the pros is in college you get 20, 30 new kids every year, but you're also losing that many. And in the league, you get to stay with pretty much the same core guys, depending on contracts, whatever. But the main core of your team, you get to stick with them for longer, so you get to learn their strengths and weaknesses better. And I mean, it's more of a family type, I think, instead of like college is like a passing through. And you can build those bonds in college, but you're just kind of passing through to try to get to a league. I think sticking with the same core of guys is more of an advantage for Matt Rule. He's not going to be getting 20, 30 new players a year, but he doesn't have to learn 20, 30 new players every year. So, I mean, whichever side you want to look on it. I mean, but, and I see we finally named Phil Snow as the defensive coordinator. I've been wondering about that. It seemed like it's pretty much been decided for however long between amongst the fans, but they finally named it, and I think Phil Snow's going to be amazing, dude. We've got talent on defense, dude, and just watching some of his stuff and watching that clip of him firing up the team in Baylor, and I think he's really going to be able to put together a good defense. And I'm cautiously optimistic about next year, depending, like always, depending on what happens with Cam Newton. If Cam can be healthy and we keep him, I really think we could do something next year, man. We're going to have a hell of a team if we have QB1 leading us. Anyway, guys, time's running out. Can't wait to hear the show. Keep pounding.
All right, thanks for your call. The number's 252-228-5098. All right, Cody, thoughts on the staff being put together, Phil Snow as defensive coordinator, Joe Brady as offensive coordinator, even without the Cam Newton stuff. Where do you see in response to that call?
Yeah, so I really like the Phil Snow hire, and it makes sense. I mean, we talked about it like it was a done deal before it even happened, because everywhere that Matt Rule has been, Phil Snow has come with him, and he kind of considers Phil Snow something of a mentor to him. So I think it's a great thing. There's a clip floating around on Twitter, and I even retweeted it. It was a clip of Phil Snow at Baylor, basically teaching up his guys and telling them why they're doing what on the certain specific plays. And, I think one of the things that you've talked about before, Tony, is that these coaches, first and foremost, have to be teachers. They have to help players to understand not only what it is that they're supposed to be doing, but why they're supposed to be doing it. And it's so important to get everyone on the same page. And correct me if I'm wrong, but did our defense not look like chickens running around with their heads cut off last season? Nobody knew where the ball was going. We had no run defense. It just seems like Phil Snow is the type of guy that can motivate the defense and also have them prepared. So I'm happy with this hiring. I'm happy that Phil Snow is on board, and I am so on board with all the coaching moves that have been made by the Carolina Panthers, from Matt Rule to Joe Brady to Phil Snow. I mean, I couldn't have imagined a better, that we were to have put together a better coaching staff than we have right now. I mean, there's every reason to be optimistic.
Well, Matt Rule has never won a football game without Phil Snow by his side. He is a loyal defensive coordinator, and both of them have preached the importance of teaching. And this has been something I've hammered home on this show for years now, going back to when we had Ken Dorsey as Cam Newton's quarterbacks coach, to questions about not even about play calling, play design, and aptitude of some of our coaches, but their ability to convey that. And I think one of the things, or to teach it. And so it's nice to hear these guys emphasizing that teaching component. One of the things I do think, and I've said this on the podcast several times in many different ways, but that young people, we're so informed today about so many things. We kind of smell bullshit, and we need to know why we're doing things. And when you know that why, you believe, you buy in, and you commit. And Snow has said that that's what he likes, is about being a teacher. Now, going to the offensive side of the ball, Joe Brady, we're celebrating all of this, and he is 30 years old, relatively little experience overall, I would say. But people are looking at him as kind of this savant of offensive coordinators going forward because of what they did with LSU. Here is, when asked about his system, Joe Brady in the most non-press conference ever.
Jim, to follow up on that, you use so much of the spread offense at LSU. Do you feel like that concept, that scheme, can that work in the NFL?
Look, it's hard to label an offense anymore these days. You talk about a West Coast system, talk about a spread system. Everybody kind of has put their own stamp on who they are and what they are. So to be able to talk about our system, our system is going to be, like I keep talking about, it's going to be what our players do best. And I think that changes year to year. I think that changes based upon what you have. At the end of the day, it's all about a vision that you have for your players. Each person on your roster, on your offense, you should have a vision for, and they all have to, play a role. And when you can find guys that fit the vision and understand their role, that's when I think you have success. And so, regardless of labeling what system it is, I think you have to put together a system that has a vision for what you guys are looking for.
All right, CK, what are your thoughts when it comes to the hiring of both Joe Brady and Phil Snow? Just take over. Go where you want with that question.
Man, I think there's something to be said about Joe Brady's press conference. It was the most non-informative press conference I've ever watched.
It's the most sanitary press conference ever.
Yeah. I don't know anything about that. We don't know. I don't really know. I'm going to answer these questions with a lot of I don't knows, because I don't. I get it. It's really early. You really don't know what the game plan is that the back office has for the draft. So to prematurely come out and say that this offense is going to run this way, I get why you have to be very cautious about what you're saying. And also, you lose a lot of leverage if you say, yeah, we don't want Cam. We want somebody else. We don't want Cam. We'll pay.
I wanted to bring this up. Is maybe the most telling piece that Cody has not dropped in his Cam Newton will not be with Carolina formula here is that I listened to that whole Joe Brady press conference, CK, and not one question about Cam.
Yeah.
What the hell? Why didn't anybody say, they asked him about C-Mac. Nobody asked him about Cam.
They probably handed out
rules.
Flyers beforehand.
Rules.
No questions about. Hey, listen, you guys want to start out. You guys want to keep your media credentials with the team, right? Yeah. So no questions about Cam, please.
Wow.
We want to leave. I could see that being the case. But let's be honest. Why would they answer any questions about Cam? Why at this point?
He didn't answer any other questions. At least you could have stuck it to him, and then he didn't answer it.
Well, and I think that. Yeah, go ahead.
Good. No, okay, I was just say, can I comment on that and something kind of supporting what Cody's talking about why I think Cam Newton is possibly gone, even though I don't think it's necessarily the best thing to do. And first, I want to show I got an empty salt shaker here, so no salt tonight.
Oh, we got to play our.
That's for Brad Dugan. No salt tonight.
Did you hear the first cat call?
He hasn't. Let him make his point before we drop it.
Okay. I know, but we got to play it for you again. It was
cool. No problem.
It was directed toward you. We'll just say that.
Okay, cool. Real quick, I just want to say I know that I talked to Cody about this the other day, and I listened to the Speak for Yourself podcast, and TJ Houshmandzadeh is on there, and I agree with Cody. A lot of stuff he says is just crazy, but he does have ties with the Bengals, deep ties with the Bengals. He played for them for a long time, so he talks to the people within the franchise, and he said that he knows from people within the Bengals franchise that Brady wants Burrow, okay, which means that's already happened. Maybe not the transaction, but the discussion has at least already started, and that was beginning of last week. So that's why I'm saying Brady signed an extension with LSU, and 11 days later signed with us. There's talks of Brady, Cincinnati knowing that Brady wants Burrow. I think that all backs up what Cody's saying is that we're looking to move Cam Newton. I don't think he's going to be with us next year. As much as I hate to say it, I think that's their play. But let's hear the cat call.
Oh, okay. You sure you want to hear it?
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Talk about your mom.
So what are your thoughts on cat call?
I can take it.
Right here. It's this one.
Hey guys, Kyle from VA.
No, it wasn't that one, was it?
No, one before that.
Before it? Was it the first call of the night?
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on cat call?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that.
What up, C3? This is Ryan from Tucson, Arizona. Tony, I was the one that called and said you were a jockstrap singer. I have now promoted you to the sock cleaner because you've done a really good job. Craig, you've been demoted, and you are now officially the jockstrap cleaner. Jockstrap daddy. That's what you are.
Oh no.
Jockstrap daddy.
Jockstrap daddy.
You said the Patriots were an up-and-coming football team prior to the 2001 season.
I wanted to point
But
this
from
out too.
1990 to 2000, they had a 73 and 103 record. 98, they were 9-7. 99, they were 8-8. In 2000, they were 5-11. And after they got smoked by the Chicago Bears in '85, they missed the playoffs 6 years in a row. And they only made the playoffs 4 times after that.
Okay.
So they were not an up-and-coming football team, dude. Don't quote stats if you ain't going to do it correctly. All right, Jockstrap Cleaner?
Okay.
I got more stuff for you later, but I don't have enough time to cram stuff down your throat because you've been acting like a salty little girl the last couple of weeks. Anyways, love the show. Keep pounding. And make sure you get them yellow stains out of them jock straps, buddy, all right? And get those pubes off, too. Later.
Brutal.
Damn, he wanted
Put some
smoke.
salt in the salt shaker for Ryan.
Yeah, you might. Hey. Yeah, definitely. And I did want to mention that last week when you said that they were not becoming before Tom Brady took over. I'm like, yeah, I went and looked at their record. I'm like, yeah, they weren't even close to being up and coming at that point in time. But I mean, it's hard to remember a time where the Patriots weren't considered great. So I understand where the misunderstanding may have come from with that. But yeah, I did want to mention that, but I didn't. I didn't do what he did, but he full on just straight up.
Hey man,
he put you on notice there. But go ahead,
hey,
Greg.
Okay, so
man.
I want to go back to the Joe Burrow thing and the Hushmanzada, right? So I was kind of thinking similar things like, oh man, this is Luke Kuechly's retiring. The Panthers could be potentially or are in the midst of, we went from a team with some pieces, now a team with no identity. And this Burrow-Brady thing makes so much sense. But, you know, Burrow's from Ohio, and his dad has already come out and said he would have no problem playing for Cincy.
Yeah,
so,
Joe Burrow,
Cincinnati.
said that, and since then, it's been reported that the Bengals have said they are not interested in trading the number 1 pick.
But then they asked the GM, and the GM said,
they haven't looked into it yet. They're open to anything.
Yeah, that's kind of the normal spiel. You know, we're open to anything. Our phone's open to it. But they have, I mean, look, they know. Like Tony said, Joe Burrow is from Ohio. I mean, he's already said, I'll go to whoever's going to pay. And that's going to be the Bengals. Like I said, and I mean, maybe I'm wrong. But in order, I mean, outside of a deal like Greg was proposing, I mean, it would take an astronomical amount to move up because you have to think you're moving up in front of other teams that also need a quarterback. The Chargers need a quarterback. The Dolphins need a quarterback. So you have to move ahead of them. So, I mean, it's not even like you're moving up to 3. I mean, you have to have the number 1 pick in the draft. And, you know, just because it doesn't seem very far from 1 to 7, I promise you it is. Like
it's astronomically hard to move up.
Yeah,
it's
I mean, and I'm pretty sure.
picks.
Well, the formula that
Maybe
I've
more.
seen with that is 4 first-round picks. I mean, obviously the one this year, and then 3 more. That's the formula I've seen. Like that's how valuable that number 1 pick is, specifically for a QB hungry team that has a QB like Joe Burrow coming out of the draft. So I'm just saying, like the odds are so slim, it's not even funny. I mean, as amazing as a Joe Brady and Joe Burrow reunion would be, I just cannot see a world where it's even in the realm of possible for this to happen. And the closest that I think we've seen it is Greg's scenario or Joe Burrow holding out, which we know is not going to happen. So, I mean, I think right now the biggest thing moving forward is knowing that we're not going to have Joe Burrow as our quarterback. And if that is the case, what other options are there? Do you take Tua? And the only way I would say Tua comes is if Cam Newton is playing 1 full year with Tua on the bench. Like, that is the only way it makes sense, in my opinion, for Tua to come to Carolina. And then if you look at all the free agents that were mentioned, outside of Case Keenum, every one of them are going to demand more money than what Cam Newton is going to cost this year. So, I mean, I think we go around in circles a little bit. What'd you say?
I said, you think so? You think like
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers and is gonna like? I don't know. I know Tom Brady is, so I don't know why anybody else.
It's gonna be like they're gonna be like
I
1
don't
year,
know, man.
$40 million.
You're gonna tell me that 31 other general managers see Tom Brady and Drew Brees as a guy that you pay more money to right now than Cam Newton? I
bet you
don't
John
know.
Elway
But I mean,
would.
my point with that is not that other GMs are going to see that. It's that our GM is going to see that, right? Are we going to be willing to come in and let Tom Brady come in and take command of the team for 1 year, 2 year for a rebuild? No, I mean, it's not logical.
Right.
And he's, Tom Brady's already come out and said that he's been embarrassed by his contract. Well, his sources at his camp said that he's been embarrassed by his contract the last few years, which is why he opted out of his final year with the Patriots. But nonetheless, I think that there's so many moving parts, obviously. But I think that when you look at the reality of free agency with the quarterback market and the fact that the draft isn't really going to produce, in my opinion, the next, immediate starter, I think this draft has to be about building the trenches. It has to be. They're, right there at the beginning, we're linebacker focused with Isaiah Simmons, but it has to be that, right? There is no other option, because if you do quarterback, well, you're getting a quarterback to come in with no help on our defense or on our offensive line. A lot of people were talking about developing. I said the difference between the Cowboys, Indy, and the Carolina Panthers is Cowboys and Indy has valued offensive linemen early in the draft, where we have not. That's the difference between a great offensive line, like you see at Dallas and Indy, with Quentin Nelson and all that. You see these people valuing these high draft pick for an offensive line, because that is protecting the most valuable asset you have on the field, and that is your quarterback.
Travis Armstrong said the Rams traded from 8-1 in 2016 for Jared Goff, and I looked it up on NFL Network, and it's even, maybe there were some other things that went on as well to make the 8-1 number right, but it says the Rams, previously selecting at number 15, are one of the lowest picking team in NFL history to trade up to the number 1 spot. They only gave a first overall pick. They traded their first, a fourth, and a 6.
Who did they trade it to? Who was it that was first?
The Rams traded it to the Titans.
The Titans traded away the number 1 draft pick?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so
the Browns had the number 2 pick.
So that was the year that they picked, you said who?
They got Jared Goff.
So they already had their quarterback.
Yeah, that's the reason why it's different though. The Tennessee Titans at the time, they felt Mariota was their quarterback. So they literally they had no reason to, I mean, they could take a lesser deal to move out. The Bengals need a quarterback. They're going to move on from Andy Dalton.
Right.
So it's going to have to be way sweeter than that deal right there.
God of Blackness, shout out to you, chat room on tap. God of Blackness said, why Joe Burrow look like a ninja on steroids? I actually think like he looks like he could be in Twilight, like he's in Twilight on steroids. With that nose and those pointy features. Yeah, put a little sparkle on him.
Everyone says he looks like an older, more buff Macaulay Culkin.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I did hear that.
I can see that for sure.
All right, let's. Any other thoughts on that, guys, before we move on?
We didn't really touch much on. Well, you had asked about the conference. I don't think anybody else really got a chance to respond to Joe Brady's press conference.
Oh, Joe Brady and Snow. One of the things I was looking at both of what these coordinators said, and I gotta say, these are the words that we've wanted to hear from people, and I think this is where the optimism comes from a Joe Brady and a Phil Snow and a Matt Rule, is that they've been asked about their systems, about how they're gonna. do all these things, and each and every single one of them just says, we look to put like what we got and what we can do with it. And as you watched what Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan have done, is I think with their play calling, I don't think it's their play calling that all of a sudden is just only genius. While it is, those guys are masterful in how they're punching and they continue relentlessly. Andy Reid just slams you over and over. He just keeps hitting you and hitting that defense until they just break. But what I think beyond their play calling is they know how to hit them with what their guys do best. And that's what Joe Brady kind of harped on, and it seems like Phil Snow's kind of coming from that camp as well, is like, all right, well, this guy can't run every route in the route tree, so let's jet sweep him on this play. Now let's bring in this formation and smash him with this. And I think that's where the optimism resides for me. I am concerned. Joe Brady, limited experience. He is so young, man, 30 years old. The youngest play caller in the NFL. It's going to be a giant task for him. A lot of responsibility coming on this young man.
A ton. The dude's my age. He's living the dream, man. The possibilities are endless for him to be in the NFL this young at this age in an organization that is, like I said earlier, they're committed to a championship rebuild. You are not going to see a change in this coaching staff next year if unless the wheels absolutely fell off and some crazy shit happened. We're not going to be the Browns and one and done all these coaches that we just hired. With David Tepper, it's giving them the opportunity to build something here in Carolina, and he's committed to that. And David Tepper even said so himself, that he had a bridge to sell you somewhere if you thought that we were going to turn this around and be a Super Bowl team in 1 year. Which, by the way, the San Francisco 49ers were 4-12 last year, and now they're in the Super Bowl. So
their quarterback also was out with an ACL injury, so they would have been 9-7.
But let me ask you this, Tony. What has Garoppolo done this year?
He hasn't lost.
Yeah, he's managed.
Exactly. But that's what I mean.
They
don't need a franchise quarterback. They just need somebody.
They need somebody. Yeah, but they've also been so dynamic in different ways too. Is that they added Emmanuel Sanders halfway through the year? That's been crazy. They found a third running back that makes Tevin Coleman look slow. They got like all of these, and then I tell you this and let's talk about this before we move on. Let's talk about the Super Bowl matchup, what you guys saw this past week. Because I've watched the Kansas City Chiefs the last 2 weeks, and I say, you know what, is that offense is just simply unstoppable. Yeah. It is unstoppable. It doesn't matter what it is, what the situation is, what the weather is, nothing. Is that they are about to beat that ass. And even when they're not beating that ass, that ass beating's coming. It's almost like you got in your one or two punches against your dad while he won't looking, and then all of a sudden he about to whip your damn ass. That's what their offense does. It's crazy. It's Andy Reid. It's more than Andy Reid. It's Patrick Mahomes being phenomenal. But guys, that San Francisco defense, Mo, that is a mean fucking defense. It is what the Kansas City offense is. It's just on the defensive side of the ball. What a Super Bowl. I think we got the two best teams.
Yeah, man.
I think you couldn't have asked for a better, just completely two opposite teams. Completely two opposite teams.
And listen, I don't know if I speak for myself here, but dude, ever since the Panthers went to the Super Bowl, every year after, I could not give less of a shit about the Super Bowl. I just wasn't interested in the Eagles and the Patriots or the Rams and the Patriots. Definitely not the Falcons and the Patriots. That was a lose-lose no matter what.
Yep.
This is the first year where I'm actually excited about the Super Bowl. I agree. That offense for Kansas, dude, it's like a bomb. Once it goes off, there's no putting it back together, man. You might be able to get up on them a little bit, but dude, I mean, as we saw against the Texans, if they're down 24-0, they don't flinch. They know that they're going to be able to move the ball and put points on the board. They know they can score from anywhere on the field. Chris Jones, their defensive lineman, and that's another thing. Their defense doesn't get enough credit. That Kansas City defense is playing way better than they have been before. But dude,
after week 8, the first 8 weeks, the defense had a lot of question marks, but they have rounded out to I would say about a top, close to the top 10 in defense.
Yeah,
they're playing playoff defense for sure.
For sure. And how about this, man? And listen, I don't know if you guys would agree with me or not. I mean, I'm not a historian. Everyone knows that. I can't talk about the 85 Bears and all these other legendary defenses. But in my time watching football, there have been 3 defenses that stood out to me in a very different way. That 2013 Seattle Seahawks with the Legion of Boom, the 2015 Denver Broncos that we know all too well. And, dude, I'll be damned if this 49ers isn't every bit as good as either of them. This pass rush for San Francisco is a murderer's row. They are vicious, and they're coming to beat your ass, man. And, dude, in my mind, that's the only way they're going to be able to stop Kansas City's offense. You have to get after Patrick Mahomes, and they're built to do it, unlike any other team. So, I don't know, man. I'm not predicting yet, but I'm pumped for this Super Bowl.
I think the Panthers 2013 defense is, in my mind, among those teams.
I give you that. For sure. I think they're up there. Yeah. Well, the thing about this San Fran defense, man, I think they have 4 or 5 first rounders on their defensive line, and I think the rotational guy is a number 3 overall pick. So I mean, Solomon, they've
been drafting defensive linemen for decades now, like a decade now.
Well, and they did
kind of what Dallas did with offense.
Well, D Ford's the guy who lost the game for Kansas City last year. So I mean,
poor guy, man. God.
Maybe good, but he did lose that game for them. Period, hands down, no doubt.
No,
you don't run up off sides.
I think that was over. Wasn't it Justin Houston that
I'm pretty sure that was Justin Houston. Yes.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. I thought.
Yeah, he went to the Colts because he left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he left and went to the Colts. Yeah.
No, because Dave Ford was with the 49ers before, wasn't he? Yeah, I believe he was with
the Kansas City Chiefs, man.
No, he is now.
No, D Ford is with the 49ers now, right?
Yeah, 49ers, but right, so he was with the Chiefs.
He came from the Chiefs, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember we did him in our potential free agent pick. We previewed him coming to the Panthers.
Well, I think the only way, well, excuse me, not the only way. There's a number of ways, but I think that if you're the Chiefs and you can stop San Fran's run in this rushing attack in this game, you win the game. I think hands down, because I think that you have a team that's probably the top 3 in passing. You have a team that's probably top 3 in rushing. So some of the top rushing and passing teams, but the defense is where it lacks for Kansas City. They're not as good of a rushing defense, even though they've been playing better lately. But
they stopped Derrick Henry, right?
I think you're right.
They did,
but I think if they sell out to stop the run, Kittle's in store for a monster game.
Yeah, Emmanuel Sanders, Garoppolo's put up points against the Saints. So it's not like he's incompetent and incapable.
Right.
I think Patrick Mahomes is really why that offense is so great. Yes, Tyreek Hill's awesome. There's all these other players that do some awesome things. And Andy Reid does some great things as well. But Patrick Mahomes just plays sensational at every moment. Even his throwaways. Did you see that one pass he threw away?
It was almost the catch in the back corner.
Yeah. I mean, it was just it was insane. So I do think that that's magical, but I don't know if that matters when you've got 7 horses coming after you.
You know
with
what
San
this game plays well
Francisco.
too. You know and it just depends upon how well the San Francisco 49ers game plan. But I feel like this pass rush literally plays perfectly into what Kansas City does so well. And what
Suck
I mean
you
is
in, dump the screen, and then they
screen
take it.
passes all day long.
Jet sweep, motion. Yeah.
That's one of the things like last year when everybody was all, ready to crown Patrick Mahomes as the best. I'm thinking he's good, but when you look at those plays, 90%, it's an exaggeration here, so I don't know the exact number, but so many of his yards were just after the catch. So much more than any other player in the NFL. And so what that told me is it wasn't necessarily Mahomes was doing something crazy. It's that he had playmakers who were able to do things after they got the ball in their hands. So granted, I'm not taking any. Patrick Mahomes is good, and he's better than I thought he was last year.
He's dealing dimes. Like, it's not kids running after the catch, though, even. It's all of it. It's all of the above.
It is running after the catch, but he does have a great deep ball. Man, he can chuck it. And
he has a
bazooka.
He can do whatever.
Man.
He can
really
do
does.
whatever. He can run. He can throw on the run. He can throw off balance. He can read defenses. He can make incredible throws. He looks super cool and composed no matter what. I'm ready to say this. If he wins this Super Bowl right here, all of a sudden, he's like already catapulted into...
in my opinion, he'll be insufferable.
He might already be insufferable. But listen, I do want to
number one jersey sales.
I know, which is crazy. It just did throwing Tom Brady for the first time in forever. But no, I want to make it a point to reiterate that both of these things are true. Like I said earlier, I cannot name another scenario where a quarterback that talented went to a roster that loaded with a head coach that good.
Brilliant.
Let's make it clear here. Every one of those things are elite level. Patrick Mahomes.
Do you know how good it is?
Do
you know how good it is? We can quantify how good it is, actually.
And they had Kareem Hunt.
I can quantify it here for you right now. The Kansas City Chiefs have not been to the Super Bowl in 50 years. That's how good it is. It got them to the Super Bowl.
And how about this? The AFC Championship game, and then the very next year, the Super Bowl. In 2 years.
That's how good it is.
AFC Championship twice. And I mean, to Andy Reid's, and this is where I was saying, like, Patrick Mahomes benefited from a very, very stacked offense. I mean, just a team that had already basically rebuilt the entire team before he got there. So he was primed for success. Before that, they made the playoffs pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, it was like every year for like 5 years in a row with Alex Smith. Like, it was, these guys you're not looking at a team that was in shambles. It's just they could never get to that next level. They could get to the playoffs. They just couldn't win. And they just needed a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes who could come in with confidence and run the offense. The thing I will say that I just dislike about Patrick Mahomes is he, with his body language, will throw every person on his team under the bus, and he doesn't give a crap. Like, every time that somebody makes a mistake, he makes sure the camera sees him say, that's his fault. That's his fault. Come on, man. That's your fault. Instead of letting him come back to the huddle and be like, hey, man, this is what I wanted you to do. You're supposed to do it this way. Everybody on TV has to know that that wasn't his fault. And that, and I'm trying to avoid doing what.
See, I haven't seen that. I'm going to look for that more because I haven't seen it. But I
man. And I listened to Pat McAfee, and they had a guy on who was talking about body language, and talking about how after a play, you can see the other teammates' body language, and you're supposed to keep this stuff under wraps so that you're not sitting there, hurting the confidence of another player. And it basically
the greatest players haven't done that though. Tom Brady hasn't done that. Aaron Rodgers didn't do that. I would even say that Peyton Manning didn't even do that.
What, keep it under wraps?
Yeah, I felt like they were all. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they didn't sulk. They don't sulk necessarily, but when Tom Brady, if you don't do, if he gives you a pass and you don't catch it, it's on the money. That motherfucker won't throw to you for like 2 weeks.
If you're one of the greatest, chances are you're an insufferable asshole.
Yeah,
look, like that's just how it is, because you're the standard, and everyone has to play and live up to the standard that you set. I can't imagine being in the final years of Peyton Manning's career and listen to that guy critique every single thing that you do.
Yeah. I heard it was difficult to sit there and watch film with them and things because of how everything, just basically what you're talking about. I'm telling you. The moment that Patrick Mahomes gets his money, which is going to happen, I feel like this offseason, it cannot wait.
For sure.
It cannot wait until his fourth full year in his contract. It cannot possibly wait. There's no way in heck that they actually wait that long.
And if you're Patrick, you just say, I don't play until you pay me.
Yeah, I mean, and what are they going to do?
Yeah, you have to pay him.
What are they going to do? I mean, he's basically put you guys over the top.
They should.
If he wins the Super Bowl.
They should.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason.
If he wins this Super Bowl, people wanted to, and I could be wrong, and I may be eating my words, but people wanted to make fun of Cam Newton for how he handled himself. I feel like Patrick Mahomes is about to be Cam Newton times 10.
Possibly.
10 Tizzy
with
said,
like
10 Tizzy said this. Peyton Manning made a player go sit down. And he said, go look up the Pat McAfee story about it. I was dying. Yeah. Hey, man, go sit over there in the corner and think about what you've done.
Yeah.
So, when I look at the matchup, I'm picking the 49ers to win this sucker.
Yeah, me too.
Are we picking tonight, or are we going to do it closer to the game?
We can do it next week. We'll do it both ways, initial feelings. But I've just kind of been on the San Francisco train. Like, I just think, all right, those guys are killing it.
They remind me. They remind me too much about like the Seattle defense with Marshawn Lynch as a great running back. Basically, Russell Wilson was doing good, but he didn't need to be incredible to win that for them back in 2013. And then Peyton Manning not being great, in his 2015, their defense was incredible. They had an okay run game, but that defense was everything. And we had one of the most dynamic offenses with Cam Newton, and they shut us down, right? They shut us down. And so this is the type of defense the 49ers have.
Here's the wild card, though, with the San Francisco 49ers, and where I think that they're better than both teams in that comparison in some ways, is that Kyle Shanahan is doing just as masterful things on his end too. Like, what that offense has is way better. We're sitting here going, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo is just managing this and that. They're no schlubs on offense, so they're not a one-sided team. And I think that's what's going to keep them from getting really KC'd entirely. But KC can KC anybody.
Can I make the argument that Kyle Shanahan's offense this year is far more impressive than Andy Reid's? Because look at it this way. So look at it this way, Dev. Who would you rather have, Jimmy Garoppolo or Patrick Mahomes?
Patrick Mahomes.
Okay, who would you rather have, the receivers for the Niners or the Chiefs?
Chiefs.
Okay, who's offensive line? Who's offensive line? Well, they both have really good offensive.
Yeah,
I think
but listen, the point being is this: Raheem Mostert, or whatever his name is, broke like a record for rushing yards and touchdowns.
He was on 7. He was cut by 7 teams.
Right. So that amount of turnaround and the amount of talent that you don't have in comparison to other football teams, and your offense is just able to just keep on rolling no matter who it is. I mean, that's a testament to Kyle Shanahan and how he has that offense rolling, man. And I remember everyone wanted to push back on me after they rolled us, and I'm like, dude, Kyle Shanahan is the shit. and it's been confirmed, man. Shanahan is indeed the shit.
Throwback Tuesday. That's coaching.
I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna
Yeah.
be difficult for Kansas City to be as comfortable as we're accustomed to see him. Like Bill Daughtry says, is Bosa gonna break Mahomes? I watched Bosa and those boys come off the line so quick against that Tennessee game.
Yeah.
Those schmucks had no chance. And I'm pretty sure like every play was a false start by the tackle. And the refs just were like, we can't call it every time. Because Bosa was coming, I mean, he was already in the dude's back pocket by the time it's coming out of his stance. It looked like some of the things we've seen former Panther tackles do, where they're trying to anticipate getting beat.
Yeah.
That guy is nasty, yo.
Yeah.
They-
Hey,
Go
can I say real quick while we're talking about this, and you're talking about Shanahan and his offense and how you think it's more impressive? I want to support you with that, and I want to talk about the way they played last week. Like, do you realize they played the Packers, who me and CK believe the NFL had deemed to make it to the Super Bowl this year, which we can talk about later. But
I still think they did. I think that they just played so bad that the refs couldn't do much about it.
You can only do so much, exactly. But
Yeah.
I do want to point out that Jimmy Garoppolo passed the ball 8 times.
I thought it was 7.
No, he was 6 of 8. 6 of 8 for 77 yards. 8 times. That's Pop Warner football.
That's exactly what they did with with
Pop Warner football. They had Mostert had 29 carries. Debo had 2. Debo Samuel had 2. Trevor Cope 6. Breida had 1. Garoppolo had 4. So that's 29. That's 31, 37, 38, 42. 42 rushes and 8 passes. Okay, that's backyard.
And the game was over in the first
football.
quarter.
Exactly. That's what kind of offense Shanahan's doing. So whenever I look at it like that, I've got to agree with Cody. I could say that Shanahan's had a better offense than Andy Reid this year because
they don't
has
have
not
to
nearly
adjust.
the weapons. Yeah,
they start out hot and they keep it going for real.
Like he wins however he needs to win, and that's insane. 6 of 8, 77 yards in the Super Bowl.
Cody, a lot of questions flying in for you on the chat in the chat room right now. Is there a potential Bosa for us in the draft? I say the answer is no, because Chase Young is going to the Redskins probably at number 2, and he is, from what you've told me, better than even Nick Bosa.
Oh, he's the best defensive end prospect that I've ever seen coming out of college.
Like better than Clowney?
Better, way better than. He doesn't have Clowney had nowhere near the bend. I mean, you're talking about 6'6", 280 pounds, and can bend like Brian Burns, but way stronger. I mean, Chase Young is on another level. But to answer that, yeah, dude, there's a ton of great defensive line players coming out in this draft. So if you're talking about edge, AJ Epinesa, the defensive end out of Iowa, is someone to look at. Doesn't have quite the bend, might not be as athletic, but he's a destroyer. And then the 2 defensive tackles that everyone's talking about is Derek Brown from Auburn, who is just a fucking King Kong, dude. The guy is ridiculously strong, an interior pocket destroyer. And another guy, so the Senior Bowl is going on this week, and they're doing the practices, and they're showing the one-on-one offensive line versus defensive line reps. And there's a guy that everyone knew about going into this, but he's just confirming it more and more. The defensive tackle from South Carolina, his name is Javon Kinlaw, and he's another Chris Jones. Long arms, powerful. It's just a violent defensive tackle with his hands, tons of pressures. I mean, they're comparing him to Chris Jones for the Kansas City Chiefs. And if you guys have seen him, he's a madman, just incredible. So
interesting you bring his name up, because God of Blackness said, Cody, we should talk about Chris Jones' contract expires soon.
Yeah, or draft a younger version of Chris Jones who played at South Carolina. I won't hold that against him, but yeah, man, they're Chris Jones, and that's another one. And me and Tim Munger were talking about it. On the, he says that Cody's on drugs today. I wouldn't trust his answer on anything. Hey, I've been known to dabble, but that's another podcast.
Brad Dugan said Mahomes is going to need State Farm insurance claim after Bosa gets done with him.
So Chris Jones. So there's a few players. They're not going to be able to pay everyone, but the Chiefs are going to pay Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick has all the leverage in the world, and Jones is every bit the type of defensive prospect that you have to have on your football team. I mean, they're able to run the football on the Chiefs much easier when Chris Jones isn't around. So, yeah, those are two dudes that are probably going to be on the Chiefs for a very long time.
All right, I think we actually have two more calls to get through, or one. Number's 252-228-5098. You can call in for next week's show. Let's see what you guys got left to say.
What's up, man? This is C-Money. I just got to ask a question. Did y'all decide to, have a podcast wide, smoke? Did y'all smoke weed? Y'all did crack? The stuff y'all talking about just don't make any kind of sense right now, man. First of all, if it's somebody that believes in Cam and they're going to make him a franchise quarterback and this, that, and the other, you trade a first for a franchise quarterback. You're not trading no seconds. You're not trading no thirds. No nothing else. Second of all, why y'all acting like y'all forget who our GM is? If we're trading for seconds and thirds and this, that, and the other, who knows with Marty Herney if them guys is going to work out? We know Marty Herney is a first-round pick kind of dude. It really doesn't make no sense. We talking about 3-team trades like this the NBA. When's the last time you seen a 3-team trade in football? Never.
I said it was a fantasy football.
Talking about what else?
That's what they call it, straight
just
facts.
didn't make no sense. The teams y'all talking about, the Chargers is the only team that could work if you're trading them for their first round pick. The Patriots, if they even have a first round pick, you never know with them. Yes, you could trade it for them. Other than that, not the Bears, not no other teams that nobody be talking about. The Bears don't really have any picks because they traded them all away to get Khalil Mack. It just doesn't make any kind of sense what I've been hearing.
I think a lot of us would agree.
Yeah, and just signing Drew Brees or Brady or all of them for a year, what would be the point of doing that? You would be better off if you're going to go in a true rebuild to just tank and get Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields next year, which I know Cody probably wants to do to get Trevor Lawrence. No, thank you for sunshine. If anything, draft a new Cam, Justin Fields. I'm out.
That's T-Money.
Well, okay, so how you about to come with all the smoke at the very last second before the call drops off? First off, I do think that it's possible that there would be a team willing to trade a first-round pick for Cam Newton. Okay. I really do think so. Y'all might disagree with me, but I really do think so. And I kind of, if I'm a betting man, I think that would happen.
Do you know of one? Can you think of one?
The Chargers trade, you would only move up 2 spots.
No, 1 spot. So they're at 6, we're at 7. You wouldn't want to have 2 top 10 picks? What if that turns
I think you would have to give them your 7.
I was about to say we would end up
I think you would have to give them your 7.
You don't think you could give them a next year's pick or maybe a 3 and 4 this year and a
why would we give
2 or
them
3 next
Cam
year?
Newton and then give them our first round pick in return
to move up 1 spot? Yeah.
No,
I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea. That's why. But I don't think that they're gonna say. I mean, what you gonna take Cam in a second and then move and still have to flip flop?
No, I'm saying if you're the Chargers and you want Cam Newton, then you're gonna have to pony up. You don't have to move to number 6. You stay at number 7, and then hey, if you want Cam Newton, fine, you can have him for a first. Do a good deal for them, a first round pick this year, and a 5th or 6th or something stupid like that, just to sweeten the deal.
Well, a first this year does us no good because that gives them the number 7.
No, but I'm not saying that we would give up the 7th pick. Why would we give them the 7th pick if we're?
So you think they would give us the
this year, though?
But they would give you a 6 overall for Cam Newton. I don't believe that.
I mean, I think and I hate to say it, I think Cam is worth it more, but I think you have the same Tua issue, except for he's older, and that is other teams are not sure of his health, right? So I think it's possible to get a first rounder, but I think it's not going to be any higher than a 16.
Brad Dugan says, "What about the Raiders?"
I've heard talks of the Raiders and the Patriots, or at least Raiders and Tom Brady. Excuse me.
The Raiders, the Patriots, the Chargers, and listen, T Money said what I said earlier. With a new stadium, they need a recognizable player. So I mean, they're going into a brand new stadium. They want to be relevant in Los Angeles, and they're not right now. So,
dude, the Dolphins aren't getting to. The Chargers aren't getting to. Tua's gonna be a Detroit Lion.
No way.
No, Detroit is talking about actually being on the market because of Stafford's health is actually a question mark right now.
Okay.
Yeah, his injury was more serious than I think people realize, because I mean, you're talking about hip and back injuries, man. It's not; those are lingering issues that can very well, especially at his age, can derail a career of most any athlete. And obviously, quarterbacks are important when you're talking about throwing motion with the hips and the back.
There is one way the Panthers could potentially get Tua, and that is if somehow the Detroit Lions do not pick a quarterback, and then you get on the phone, you trade with back to you say you could do that Cam to Las Vegas, and you get there maybe 19, and you package the 19th pick and the 7th pick, and you move up to where the Giants pick at 4. That is the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah, you're right. They have the guy they think is their quarterback.
Yeah, the Giants are in a good position to move down.
It's really about the Lions. The Lions are getting the second best quarterback this year.
Well,
I don't know, man. I mean, this is so. Again, they're kind of in a situation where the health of their quarterback matters also. And also, you brought up Tua Tagovailoa. Tua Tagovailoa and Cam Newton are really in such a similar position because they're waiting until they can give football teams a clean bill of health sometime in March or April. And it's the same thing for both of them. And teams are waiting to hear that Tua's healthy. Teams are waiting to hear that Cam Newton's healthy.
But even if you drafted Tua, you didn't have to force him to play right away. You could still go on with your plan of like, all right, we're going to do this rebuild the right way. And you could trot Greer out there for a while until Tua's ready.
I'm happy that you mentioned that.
Why would you sit Tua behind Greer, though?
Because he's not ready yet.
Well, if his health wasn't where it needed to be.
Health, I get it.
Yeah. But so think of it this way. I mean, okay, we just talked about San Francisco and the 49ers and how great their offense has been this year. Basically, just because their play caller knows what the hell he's doing and knows how to game plan. Have we written off the fact that Will Grier starts for us another year? And, maybe he ends up being another Jimmy Garoppolo type of player. Or maybe the Panthers bet on that.
Yeah, nobody believes that is happening.
Well, I mean... No,
do you believe that's Are you that person?
I'm not it's not what I want to happen, but I'm not going to be a hypocrite to my own rule. I never say that you would judge a quarterback based off of their first year in the NFL, because there have been some damn good quarterbacks that played some terrible football their first year in the NFL.
Peyton Manning.
Yeah. Now, am I betting that Will Grier turns it on and becomes our franchise quarterback? No, dude, not at all.
You saw him, dude. You saw him. Do you think he even has the ability to be it? In the best case scenario,
I also saw him at West Virginia in a spread offense, which is what we're basically going to have. And the dude was throwing touchdowns all the time. So
yeah, we talk about this being a quarterback friendly, offense. with Joe Brady. I think that we have a situation where Will Grier starts another year and may thrive, and that may be something that they look at with this whole, maybe not drafting a quarterback and not actually going after one in free agency. The question about the problem that I see about Tua starting behind, Will Grier, if we ended up making a move for Tua, is he'd have to end up being a backup, right? And if
it's not for certain, because his health might end up being okay, but it's possible that he might need some more time.
Yeah, but even if, let's say you do want to give him more time, like let's say he's got a clean bill of health, he's fine, but you want to give him a full year of no contact in that respect to try to get better, right? To make sure that when he is ready to start, he is ready to start, period. Well, if Grier goes down and he's a backup, well, he's out there anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you're almost putting him in a similar situation to where Kyle Allen was, which I'm not saying Kyle Allen was expected to be, anywhere, to the same level Tua would be expected to be. But you have a situation where he's coming in with not having first, team reps. He's being judged based on his first game as a starter because of the situation he's been thrown into. And he doesn't have the ability to actually he's thrown into a situation where it's a lose situation for him. So that would be my issue.
We don't think Tua is that player. We think Tua is, had he not been hurt, is still, or you're still thinking there's a potential he could out Burrow Joe Burrow, go number one.
Tua could have put up Burrow numbers had he played the second half and not gotten injured. He could have put up.
So I don't think the Burrow at one decision would be so etched in stone had Tua been healthy. But for me, you know what this is what T Money 1993 says. He said that he's heard that the Lions are talking about Okadu.
Jeffrey Okudah.
Okudah. I'm gonna call him Okadu. Okudah.
I like that.
Okudah, because of the Slay contract situation. So I do believe this is that. Now, do you think Gettleman would hold saltiness against the Carolina Panthers and refuse to deal with us, but deal with the Chargers?
Well, maybe not, because he was fired by Jerry Richardson. So maybe it might not. I could see a situation where he holds him. Maybe is a little salty, as you said, but I think that that's a good question, man. I don't know if he holds it against the organization or against Jerry Richardson.
I do just want to point out that Dave Gettleman has never traded down in his history of being a general manager. Not one time
for everything. First time.
He traded up. Oh no, he has traded up. Didn't he trade up to get Daniel Jones?
He traded up for no, he was
no. They had that. Yeah, they had that pick.
Yeah, they had that pick. They were number 7.
Guys, can I shift gears for a second, because I want to look at this future of the Panthers franchise in kind of a different light, because I think that that's the way Dave Tepper's doing it. And I think that based on his history, with hedge funds and taking chances, I think he's kind of an analytics guy, which is just a fancy way of saying trends. So check this out. Listen to these 10 teams. Tampa Bay, Dallas, Atlanta, Kansas City, the Rams, the Chargers, the Saints, the Raiders, the Patriots, and Detroit. What do you think that is?
All teams that I don't want to be, except for the Chiefs.
Okay. That's the top 10 passing teams this year in the NFL, okay? And of those teams, Kansas City and New Orleans and New England, excuse me. So 3 of the top 10 teams made the playoffs, okay? So now I'm looking at the rushing teams. Listen to this. Baltimore, San Francisco, Tennessee, Seattle, Dallas, Minnesota, Indy, Buffalo, Houston, Arizona. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 7 of the 10 teams. So 7 of the top 10 rushing teams made the playoffs this year and were strong contenders, and 3 of the top 10 passing teams. I think that even though the league has changed to a more passing league, that makes defensive players more prone to protect passing attacks. And I think the league is going to change. It goes through regimes or kind of cycles, and I think that we're going into a cycle where a stronger rushing attack is going to be a better a better play to go with rather than a stronger passing attack. So you don't need as strong of a quarterback. However, I think the running game has changed. I think it's more of a hybrid running back now is the better way to go. But I mean, just based on looking at these two these two stats right here of teams that made playoffs and that didn't, do you think maybe he's going with the mindset of we don't need a franchise quarterback right now? And like Cody said, maybe stick with Will Grier or even Cam Newton, because they may not feel like he's a top 10 franchise quarterback in the future, which he could turn out to be.
Yeah.
Like I said, looking at the stats, it kind of backs up what Cody says. I'm backing him up all
I don't
night.
buy any of this. I don't buy it. What I don't
buy
buy
what?
is this. I don't buy that. I think it's overdone. The idea that having a franchise quarterback is like not necessary. And I think, and what I mean by that is, I don't say you're saying it's not necessary, but also when everybody keeps saying, oh, all these teams build around a quarterback on their rookie deal. All these teams, not really. Not really at all. Patrick Mahomes, sensation. And really, Lamar Jackson did what Cam did. You know what I'm saying? And those are franchise quarterbacks. So, no, they just happen to get guys that are fucking amazing. And so I think this is, you could also look at all those other teams. Look, what do the Patriots, the Saints, and the Packers all have in common?
Legendary quarterback.
Yeah,
I'll give you that, but then I can also look at it and say, well, look at the Bears went 12-4 last year with Trubisky. Josh Allen.
But what they do this year?
Josh Allen went 12-4 this year with Buffalo.
Listen, here's the deal.
But that's what I'm saying is you can hit that in a year,
fuck that
man.
shit, man. Give me
just
the
because
best
you have
quarterback.
a good year a year or two doesn't mean you're a franchise
So
quarterback.
I would much prefer to have a franchise quarterback, but Greg's 100% right. Teams have proven that you do not have to have the best quarterback on the field to be the best football team on the field.
You have to have the best rest of the team, though, like top to bottom. Like you can't have any holes. If your quarterback is average or below, like just average, you can't have any holes. Your offensive line's got to be a fucking beast. Your running game's got to be unstoppable. Your defense has got to eat like crazy. Yeah. And so
like
that
Ravens.
is so
Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl.
Well, you could go back to the Ravens in 2000 or whatever that was. Yeah, but you can give me all these other ones, but I could also give you all of these teams that won it with fucking great quarterbacks. I'm telling you is that I don't want to live in a land of no quarterback ever again.
Mm-hmm.
So is that I would be okay. The only way I'm interested in moving on from Cam this year is if your ass thinks that you got the next fucking best thing. Other than that, like,
it's got to be Cam.
So you want Cam, the next answer, or nothing else. You don't want Will Grier, basically. You don't want Will Grier. You don't want Kyle Allen. Okay, I get that. I respect that. Yeah.
I think it's too much of a gamble to let Cam walk without at least entertaining the idea of keeping him for this last year.
He can't walk though. He can't. He's under
contract. He's out of the boot
Actually,
now.
Did you see a picture? Him. But it also
also
looked like a fashion.
I think he meant from the contract. He can't walk from the contract.
Yeah, he can't walk from the contract. But I meant.
He can't walk. What are you telling me, Cam? You can't walk. I saw him walking yesterday.
That was like your cheesy comment on my podcast. I took it way too literally. Took it way too literally.
Here, let's go on. We got a couple more calls. Let's power through them as we continue to talk this out.
Hey there, guys. Josh from Mass. Another week gone by and another round of assistant coaches and coordinators officially coming on and being hired. A lot of faces and names that kind of scattered in terms of people that have been heard of or not heard of or have had time in the league, haven't had time in the league. They spent a bunch of time doing college stuff and only a little time in the NFL or vice versa, what have you. Kind of my takeaway from this is that Coach Rule is putting the people around him that he feels give him the best opportunity to have to worry about specific things and not have to worry about micromanaging the rest of the team. At least that's how I view it. But I also feel like he's bringing in people that have mentored him or he has mentored, and to some degree, I think it's his opportunity with, the big bucks that Mr. Pepper has, to bring in maybe some people that he really kind of only thought maybe he would ever get to work with. But now that the circumstances are what they are, he's able to have these people in his staff. What do I think that'll mean for the long term? I don't know. I think making any guesses beyond what we might get to see this coming year are a little much. And of course, you can't go on Twitter, Facebook, wherever. It's even pooped over onto Instagram now, which is a little ridiculous. The Panthers are interested in trading up to get Joe Burrow, and look, I'm not saying it's impossible, but you'd be giving up.
I think I'd rather have
some pretty good draft capital this year, next year, probably even into the year beyond.
I called that months ago.
And you got to question if that's really worth it for a team with as much need as we have. I just don't see that happening. I don't see us giving up picks at a time when we need picks. We need to bring fresh faces in to develop over the next 3 to 4 or 5 years, etc. Especially with a guy like Luke definitely gone, and the possibility that other faces will be gone. So, curious to see what you guys think on those topics. Have a great night. Catch you all in the chat.
All right, thanks, Josh from Masters. I know that we want to continue to think that we are so far away because losing Luke, we're losing all of these pieces. All the faces, like you said, Greg, about your shirt last week or 2 weeks ago. Tell us who was on the shirt.
You know what? I have a picture of it that I sent in the chat. I know it has Cam Newton, Thomas Davis, Luke Kuechly,
Greg
Olsen, Jonathan Stewart. I think of the people on there, and every one of
wasn't he?
Yeah, maybe I can't remember. I sent a picture of it to y'all. Either way, everybody but Cam Newton is gone, and that was 2 years ago.
Somebody else was out. My friend Clip Brock was when I went on Pirate Radio 1250 on Friday. You can check it out. But you can download the Pirate Radio app and listen to me on the radio every Friday talking about NFL. But he brought up. He said I saw a picture on the internet. It was Ryan Khalil, Thomas Davis, Cam Newton, Greg Olsen, and he goes and it was like one other person, like Charles Johnson or something like that. And it's like none of these guys are on the team. It's like kind of you don't even hear of that so much. But while we continue, like it does feel so far away. If you have the best running back in the league and you have some serviceable parts on the offensive line you think you can build around Imperatus, maybe in, was it Greg Little, maybe in Moten. I do think that I think I would only be excited if we did anything other than Cam if it was Tua. And somebody in the chat room, Charles Hill, said a healthy Tua and McCaffrey in the backfield would be sick. So much twitching and speed. I think he's actually somewhat real. It could be a realistic possibility if the Giants want to move. But if you add him, that's what it's going to take for this not to be a long rebuild. Is that makes it an instant. We're going to be contenders up on the upswing.
I think that if we traded to the Giants and got Tua, we would be contenders next year. I mean, like I said, we have the best running back in the league. We have a top 5 wide receiver in the league. You get a guy like Tua, and that adds a whole other dimension to our offense. Granted, our defense has been horrible for the last 2 years.
That's what I was about to say.
But
if you look at the top.
I do want to say that we are putting faith in Cam Newton, and Cam Newton hadn't played well in 2 years. Well, 2 years ago, our defense, that's almost the same, minus Luke Kuechly and maybe a couple of Star Lotulelei, like key players. the same exact defense. So why do we have faith that Cam Newton can come back and play well, but our defense can't? Because
we
it's
have
almost the
nobody
same
on our
defense. Well, it's just almost the same defense as 2 years ago, and 2 years ago we had a great defense.
Well,
You
yeah,
know?
and again, it goes back to what did we do with Dontari Poe? What did we do with Joe McCoy?
Right.
Poe's gone. He's getting cut.
Yeah, and
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 McCoy
then-
can't be re-signed.
I'll challenge
ahead.
the fact that we're saying that we had a good defense 2 years ago. Like I
agree. I
really don't think we haven't had a
maybe it was
haven't
3,
had a
yeah.
good defense since 2016.
We had so 3 years ago. Okay, so I was wrong.
2017 wasn't bad. but it wasn't
2017,
good.
they fooled us
Okay.
in the beginning into thinking they
'Cause
were
the-
all right, and then it
That maybe
just
it was, yeah.
and that had a lot to do with Steve. He was throwing blitzes, like he was blitz king that year.
You're right
And so
about
I
that.
think it made it look like our secondary was holding up, when in all reality it was just our we were blitzing to make him throw
Pass
the ball
rush.
away or something.
Yeah.
So and it wasn't even a true pass rush. We weren't rushing with 4 guys and getting to the X. We were actually blitzing the whole time.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah.
That's a fair point, yeah.
I do think that when you look at our defense, there's just way too many holes right now and too many free agents for us to actually justify saying that our defense can be anything other than suspect for the next year, possibly 2 years, until we can actually get some developed players in that position that are able to actually hold down the fort, because we haven't had that in a long time.
And that makes
Makes
me
sense.
want to go back to say what I said earlier and what kind of led me down this whole Cam Newton isn't going to be with us next year tirade to begin with, is that I honestly believe that David Tepper is committing to not necessarily a full rebuild, but whatever you want to call it, man, a rebuild that isn't completely dependent upon us being the best team in the NFL next year. He understands this is going to take time. He understands it's going to have a little bit of patience. He's letting this coaching staff know that. And I think also this is why it certainly played a part into Luke Kuechly's decision to retire. If you look around and all of your friends and your teammates that you've been battling with for years are out the door now, and you think that your buddy Cam Newton might be leaving, then it's like he's making the decision that they're going forward into a different era of the Carolina Panthers, and I'm just going to, spare my brain and not take all the damage for a team that's trying to rebuild. So I wouldn't doubt if maybe we want to roll with Will Greer as the quarterback for another year and then see how that goes and see if maybe that puts us in a position to draft a Trevor Lawrence or draft a Justin Fields. And that way you've spent the meantime building up the pieces on our offensive and defensive line. So that way, by the time we do get the quarterback that we want, we have an infrastructure.
Can't even
around
guarantee you're going to be close to that. We won 5 games and we're not even sniffing the top 3 picks. Whitehammer 53 says this may seem. He said stop talking about the quarterbacks in the draft. The only thing I wanted to, if I was just going to pull it up, is that if you pick a defensive tackle and you had the opportunity, theoretically, to get Tua instead, you're not going to see a big change for a long time. I mean, look at this. Is the top 10 pick for defense in the 2018 draft was Bradley Chubb, Denzel Ward, and Roquan Smith. You're talking years
in his first game.
Yeah, but you're talking years down the line before those guys. You have to build around them. I don't know if you get close to, you don't get in the top 10 easily. And it would be, I think, a little foolish if you think that Cam Newton can't be the future of this team beyond even just a year. I think it would be foolish to not, when you have a commodity into that, just despite that injury, he checks all the boxes everywhere else.
Yeah.
I don't see anybody else changing the team that much worth it.
Well, it all depends on what you're drafting for. Do you have to draft for a franchise player? or do you have to draft for the best player you have available? Because, like you said with Denzel Ward, he's a great player. I think he had 4 interceptions in the first 5 or 6 games he played, 2 in the first game he played in his pro career. He's a great player, but it's because they didn't need a franchise player at that point. Like, you don't build your franchise around a cornerback. You can build your franchise around a linebacker. You can build it around a quarterback, maybe a running back, maybe a wide receiver. I'm not sure. But it's where's Carolina at right now? Do we need to build a franchise around somebody, or do we have that person to build them around and need to support it from within there, like from that point out? And I think with Christian McCaffrey, I think we have a franchise player we can build around. So where do you go from there? Like, do you want to build him a line so that way he can, continue to be the best running back in the NFL? Like, it's. I think we're in more of a need than franchise type situation.
I don't know. All right, let's go a couple last. I think there's 2 calls. Let's see.
Hey guys, it's Joey Esquivel.
What's up, Joey?
About some of the things y'all were talking about. Y'all were talking about number 1, how do you get Joe Burrow, which I feel like that comes up like about every week on the show. We are talking about the Bengals here, and the Bengals are the Bengals. That's why everyone laughs at. They're not even like the Browns losers. Like, they're not even lovable losers. They're just the clown losers that everyone laughs at because they're so cheap and archaic, and they think like. So you know how we had NFL 100 this year? The Bengals think they're still at 0. Like, they haven't gotten the memo that 100 years have passed by, and
it took off the one.
Team. So,
Bengals
would it surprise me if they let go of the number 1 pick? Well, yes and no, because the Bengals are the Bengals. But then again, Burrow is from Ohio. And I strongly do not approve of the prospect of Tom Brady coming to the Panthers.
Agreed.
Because Tom Brady is a product of Bill Belichick.
I can agree with that too.
We don't have the offensive line to protect him. And yeah, he would have more weapons than he did with the Patriots. But then every other team in the league would know all you have to do
I don't think I
is
could
have a
cheer
pass
for him.
rush, and
Yeah,
you'll beat the Panthers because Tom Brady is like,
You
I
say
don't
that
know
until
what
we get
to
to
say.
like
He's
8
like,
wins in a row.
In a Super Bowl.
he's,
Halfway through the
That's
season,
what
we're
it would
undefeated.
say.
Like, I love Tom
like
Brady.
the correct example to say, but he's basically afraid of pressure. He's got a phobia of it because he's a 42-year-old quarterback. So, no to Tom Brady, my friend.
I agree.
I do. I think
Who
he's got
is
full
who is
cast
a
of
player
support.
that? Are there any players you would not be able to cheer for if they became a Carolina Panther? I would be mad suspect. It would take you would have to. You would have to earn yourself. Look, it took Roman Harper a minute for me to like start like him at all, to give him any opportunity, and it's just because he's not a douchebag of a dude. That's why I ended up liking him, and he was okay. Like, I would not be able to cheer for Jameis Winston. I would not be able to cheer for
Matt
Tom
Ryan.
Brady, and I for sure could not cheer for no damn Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, I'm the same
No?
way.
You couldn't cheer for Phillip Rivers?
Nope.
He's a Carolina boy.
Here's the part. If it wasn't a situation where you let go of Cam, like if I'm telling you right now, boys, if this happens, I will lose my shit. If we let Cam go only to sign Phillip Rivers, I'm gonna.
I don't know. I might cancel the show.
Yeah, we might. Gosh, I'm sorry. I don't know what I would do. I might end up having to
would. How about? I don't know. It would have to be the C3 Panthers, but not Phillip Rivers podcast. Like, I'm telling you, Drew Brees becomes our quarterback, you gonna be cheering for that dude all of a sudden? Shit.
No, it would feel unearned if a quarterback that's been okay or good or great somewhere else came in and I don't know, played with the Panthers. No, I want a ground up guy. We want to draft the dude and have him be the guy. There
That's
really isn't anyone,
Tua,
man.
he could be our next Russell Wilson. If you really don't believe Cam is it, you got to go get the next Cam. And there ain't no time better than the now, in my opinion. Now,
next season too.
But but CK, you said it is what happens. He comes in, wins 8 games, all of a sudden.
Hey man, I'm a big fan of Tom Brady at this point. Yeah, he's got me 8 wins in a row. We're going to Super Bowl, boy. Yeah, but
gosh.
would that not be? Obviously, I think we'd welcome a Super Bowl. No matter what. But if it was,
yes,
Tom Brady
I would take
it
it any
for us,
way we could get it. I would take it any way we can get it.
Like, wouldn't that feel
if
like
we
a bit
cheated,
bittersweet
cool
though?
with it.
Wouldn't it be bittersweet though that it came from Tom Brady though? Like if that were to be the case, like he came in year 1 and got us a Super Bowl, and then we're like, okay, I guess that makes up for the one you stole from us.
I think that's like the only fucking thing that it would. That's what it would take for me to cheer for you. What was it? I said for me to believe in this team, they would have to go do this, and it was like beat Seattle on the road in the, like no other way am I believing in this. Is I can't cheer for anybody. I hate this show.
So White Hammer,
go ahead.
I was just say White Hammer made a point in the chat. He said, "What about Teddy Bridgewater?" By the way, White Hammer
with Joe Brady.
White Hammer is a Patriots fan, and he is a firm believer that Tom Brady is staying there in New England, even though the writing on the wall says otherwise. But nonetheless, he said, "What about Teddy Bridgewater?" Teddy Bridgewater is going to warrant more money than Cam Newton this year.
I agree.
I disagree too.
Teddy Bridgewater, you disagree or you agree?
I disagree that Teddy Bridgewater will be more expensive than Cam Newton.
He's proven Cam Newton
without a new deal. Are you going to get Teddy Bridgewater for under 22? The answer is no.
No, hell no.
You might save get under 30. You might get him for 25, but you're not getting him for less than 20 for sure.
Yeah.
Fun fact is Joe Brady was a coach with the Saints and 2 years ago, I think, and that is Teddy Bridgewater was there as well.
Yeah.
Who do you think is worth more money, Cam Newton or Teddy Bridgewater?
Cam Newton.
No, that's just ifs and like in this. But the thing is that Cam's not a free agent. Teddy is.
True, and
that's the only reason. So it's a non-question if they're both free agents.
Well, didn't Teddy Bridgewater go 5-0? But didn't Teddy Bridgewater go 5-0? And he played Seattle. He played a lot of good teams.
Yeah, but he also threw the ball like
the Rams,
12 times.
The Cowboys. Like he played a lot of good teams and went 5-0.
He's not bad.
Cam Newton,
he's never been
last time
bad.
we saw Cam Newton, he's been 0-8. I'm just saying, I love Cam.
Yeah, with a good football team around him. On Teddy Bridgewater's best day, you can't sniff Cam Newton's ball.
Agreed. But he's
What
not bad.
about Kirk
I'll give
Cousins?
you that.
What about Kirk Cousins? Do you think Kirk Cousins is better than Cam?
Then who?
No.
Did you
Cam
say
Newton
Cam?
has had to, Cam Newton has
Did you
had
ever
to elevate.
say that again, CK?
What did you say?
No.
Did you say better than Cam?
Yeah, is Kirk Cousins better than Cam?
Passer than Cam.
I'm asking for a point.
He's not even that.
Because Cam Newton this year got paid way less than Kirk Cousins did.
Yeah.
Well, that's a change in regime as far as the
Kirk
draft,
Cousins got franchised
salary
3
cap
times
goes.
in a row. Yeah, there's
Right.
a bunch of
That's how the salary cap goes.
that.
Cam Newton got signed 4 years ago.
He also got paid more than
the reason I'm saying
Patrick Mahomes.
The point that I'm trying to make is that Teddy Bridgewater is going to warrant more money.
Yes,
Teddy
correct.
Bridgewater has not had to prove himself beyond the 5 games that he was in. And I'm telling you, one of these quarterback desperate teams that are still in the middle part of the round, i.e. the Colts, will pay him elite level quarterback money to bring him in because he was not a bad quarterback in the Vikings when he played as a starter up there.
So
the biggest issue was his
then are we saying
Chargers
that
could
we
use.
don't think? Are we saying that we don't think a team wouldn't think that same thing about Cam Newton?
I do think a team would, but what I'm saying from the Panthers' perspective, do you like the question is what about the Panthers taking Teddy Bridgewater? Would you let Cam Newton go to another team for a draft pick and then pay more money for another quarterback like Teddy Bridgewater, who still has an injury concern, who hasn't played a full season as an NFL quarterback, taking all the hits that an NFL quarterback does?
Look, Cam's
he's going to get
be
paid
in
more money.
Carolina. Unless we move up and get a quarterback, Cam's going to be in Carolina. That's my
Right. I agree. I'm not paying more for another quarterback. I'll either have a rookie or I'll pay Cam Newton what his – or I'll have a veteran that'll come in and play for less than Cam. I'm not paying more than what
right.
Cam's going to play for next year.
We flogged this horse. Let's go to the last call.
I'm back. I'm a little bit more calm now. I think the Lions are taking Okuda. And
Okuda.
If you, the only way you would get to it, you would have to call Gettleman up and say, hey, we want to trade up to 4 and jump in front of the Dolphins and the Chargers and take Tua. If you take Tua, the Giants wouldn't want Cam, so you're giving up the picks that it would take. Cam would be your stopgap until Tua is ready. Once Cam's contract situation is up, you either extend him or you let him walk and then you play Tua. If Greer had to start for a year, his biggest thing was confidence. I seen him in training camp where he was pump faking 3 times on screen passes. His thing was confidence. And Joe Brady and Matt Rule could give him confidence, which was Joe Burrow's problem. If you look at Joe Burrow the year before Joe Brady got there, he was trash. But the next year, he's the best player in college football. Will Greer does have arm talent.
I agree.
Okay.
All right.
Is that it? Okay.
Is that
I like it. I would love that. Would be kind of my dream scenario. The only way I'd be ready to move on from Cam Newton is the thought of Tua and like the perfectness that everybody said came with Tua about everything, his interviews to this, to, his behavior, all of that. Like he looks to me like he's going to be Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
Yeah, Russell Wilson's a good comparison. A lot of people say I'm more mobile. Well, not a lot of people, but a comparison that I liked was a more mobile version of Drew Brees because of how he goes through his progressions. He reads the field second to none. He's willing to make all the throws. He can look off the safety, manipulate corners with his eyes. The dude has it all. I mean, from a football perspective, Tua Tagovailoa is a guy that you want to be your quarterback. And got a black that said dink and dunk specialist. That's not at all true, man. Jalen Hurts is a dink and dunk specialist, man. And a lot of people are saying Jalen Hurts is someone that we should draft. He's looked bad at the Senior Bowl practices. I don't know, but I'm with Tony on this one. I think Tua would be an incredible quarterback for the Panthers, but yeah, I just don't know if we're gonna even be willing to move up for him.
Be in the realm possible.
All right. Well, this is enough, guys. Let's go ahead and get some ice up picks in. Don't forget, we'll be back here next Tuesday, 9:00, and call on the show 252-228-5098. Go ahead, CK.
I was gonna say, can we talk about the new rules that they're going to be testing out at the Pro Bowl? Have you seen these things?
I've heard a little bit about this, but I haven't.
It's actually pretty sick. It's something that I think they've been talking about, but it has a lot to do with the onside kick. So basically, the proposed rule changes. One of them is called options after a successful field goal or try attempt. So basically, after you've gotten a touchdown, whether you do a field, 1 point or 2 point conversion, this is what you can choose. You can choose to have the ball to be given to the other team at the 25, so no more kickoff, and they would then begin a 1st and 10, meaning the opposite team who didn't score the touchdown,
right,
and a new series of downs. Or in lieu of an onside kick, they may elect to take the ball at their own 25-yard line, and then it would be a 4th and 15. So you would have the option to basically have one play to get 15 yards. If you don't get the 15 yards, the other team would take over wherever the spot of that dead ball is if you didn't get the first down. So basically, you would give them a short field again, but you would have a better, like you would have a 4th and 15, which is a shot at actually making the
ball
first
again.
possession
Yeah.
of the ball again.
Yeah.
So it gives you a more realistic chance, especially at the end of a game where you may need, it may be a 2-possession game and 2.5 minutes in, you get a touchdown, and all of a sudden it's a 1-possession game, but you have to really hope and pray that you get an onside kick recovery.
Right.
So
this would
go ahead.
Yeah. I was say, so this would allow for a more analytical approach about how you're going to handle it, because it's not going to be where a onside kick probability was like 10%, or if not, less than that. 5%. Yeah. So now you would take that, what the analytics are for 4th and 15, which are, I would imagine, higher than 5%. So you have that going back and forth type of situation. And this is just testing it out for the Pro Bowl, so something to look into. But yeah, you guys discuss that now, and then I'll read up on the second one, and I'll let you guys know about that one.
Well, let me ask you. So you said that, like, say it's 4th and 15 from your own 25, you throw a pass and you don't make it. You said the other team gets the ball then, I guess, on your 25?
Yeah, so they only have to go 25 yards to actually score a touchdown.
So you basically in the field goal range. Okay.
Yeah, which, I mean, an onside kick almost does that anyway. Because, I mean, yeah, so, I mean, you're giving them short field position with an onside kick either way. But, yes, there is that risk that you're going to have with any type of a 4th down play like that. But, yeah, I like the idea of that personally. Yeah. So that way no team's ever
what
out.
We like about it is that the onside kick was so low percentage conversion, and before they changed the rules.
Let's be honest,
kind of bizarre.
If it's 2.5 minutes left in the game, you're down by 2 possessions, you're either already leaving the stadium or you're turning the TV off. It's already gone. We're going to go ahead and get ready to watch the C3 Panthers podcast for the post-game show. That's how your mindset switches over, right? At that 2.5 minutes, if it's a 2-possession game, this, I think, would change that. And I think that helps for the overall quality of the game, especially at the end. But I think it also is a risk that is tough, because the first team that actually wins a game because of that is going to have the other team like, that's just not a fair rule, all this stupid stuff. So, but yeah, so
I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to that, because the onside kick is like, and maybe you do want to keep it even that last ditch. I mean, maybe you don't deserve to win if it takes, the act of God, unless it takes an act of God.
Well, that's kind of like, did y'all see the XFL overtime rules?
Yeah, there's also now the XFL has something too. You can go for a 1 point extra, 2 points, or 3 points.
That's pretty cool, man. I think some of the rules they're starting to integrate in that is going to be pretty cool. Like, I love the overtime rules, man, where it's basically like a soccer shootout, where you have the offense and defense on each side of the field, and you get 5 tries from the 5-yard line. Yeah, and it's a shootout. That I like that idea. That's pretty cool.
And if that doesn't work, they go even a step further to where it goes down to the. If I got to remember if 100% if this was Pat McAfee or if this was actually the XFL, where it goes down to the kickers, where like they go, one kicker kicks, the next kicker kicks, and then they go back 10 yards, and one kicker kicks, and the next kicker kicks.
I think that was McAfee. Yeah,
I just don't know if the NFL is one player. I don't know if the NFL is really lacking for excitement, though. That's the only thing that is I hesitate with the major rule changes.
They're really trying to eliminate the kickoff. That's really what they're trying to do, I think, at this point, because it's already one of the most boring, unless there happens to be something that's not a touchback, which it doesn't happen as often as I think it would. But I think that it's definitely something they're trying to get rid of.
Well, now teams are getting wise, and they're not even kicking the ball into the end zone. They're kicking it to the 1 and saying,
they're kicking it to the 1, and then hoping that the other team has hoping that even if they do get to the 25, there's a good chance that the receiving team is going to have some sort of a blocking in the back, or where
a penalty, a fumble,
penalty,
yeah. So, I mean, I think that the benefit to kicking it to the 1 is heavily in favor of the kicking team now. So I agree. And I think they're trying to get rid of that altogether because of the injuries, because of the those pieces, the fact that it is probably one of the least exciting plays on the entire, football field. And I could see where this comes into play. Often, the offsides rules, or onside kick rule, that thing is just already, unless it's something as incredible as the onside kick the Panthers recovered. That was an incredible onside kick recovery. But.
The XFL is, while the NFL is trying to get out of the game of kicking and returns, the XFL seems to be trying to get into it. And I stole this from my friend Clip Brocky. That's the way he said it. But there's a rule too. You can't advance until the punt returner catches the ball.
Yeah, that would be insane. That would be insane. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they're making it too, like you can't, so you get this time as a returner to try to make
30
a return.
yards right there. Yeah, it's 30 yards easy.
How many people are going to be breaking these rules, because they are so used to playing either in the NFL or in college to where none of these rules exist. So, the moment that ball gets kicked, they're already running and they're looking back.
What's the other rule they're trying out?
The other one, it was actually nothing crazy. I thought it might have been something because it was two different columns, but it had something to do with the false start, whether it was a false start or not. So.
You know what that is? They're getting rid of what Vrabel did to Belichick.
Yeah, moving the head movement.
You can't basically get two of the same penalties in a row, so they got a different penalty on purpose, and then.
Yeah, but let's be honest, my thing is how many people are going to bitch and complain if a team comes back at the end and they manage to take advantage of these rules? They're going to be, you didn't, you wouldn't have won if it was playing like the old days of real football. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't mind it. I'm not adverse to change, but I will say this: I like that football is hard to win. And when you give up a big lead and the team starts kicking your ass, you have to. Okay, so the Kansas City Chiefs, they could go down 30 points, and they're fine because they know that they have what it takes to come all the way back.
I know they would just go for it on 4th and 15 every time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think they're built to do what it takes to come back.
4th and 15 is a tough conversion, though. That is.
Well, let me ask you: would you rather watch? Okay, so for me, if I'm watching a game, the kickoff after a score or whatever. Okay, I'm not really paying that much attention to it. I'm looking at my phone. I'm going to grab a beer or something else like that. If it was a 4th and 15 where my team can get the ball back, or we turn it over in the 25, I'm staying and watching that. So that is a big selling point. That's a big difference. I know. Would you guys feel the same? Are you staying and watching that 4th and 15, or are you going to take a piss?
I mean, no, dude, everybody's going to watch it. Yeah.
Can I tell you why I like this?
Why's that?
Because what do we think about special teams? Special teams are the no. Well,
we hate them because the Panthers suck at them.
We suck at them. Yeah.
Well, let's forget about that. Are special teams the best players on the team?
The most athletic players on the team, I would say. Sometimes
are they the best players on the team?
No, they're usually guys. The only reason they're on there is because of the special teams.
Because they're special teams. A lot of guys, they're not good enough to make the roster as a offensive or defensive personnel, so they end up making special teams, right? Mm-hmm. So, would you prefer to put that in the hands of the backup on the teams, or would you rather have the best players on the other team's offense and the best players on the other team's defense and allow for that to be a head-to-head? I personally like the idea of actually putting the game in your best players' hands on both sides, not just your special teamers who are second best players on your team or third best.
I just wonder what it would do to would there be a coach that comes along and says we're going for it this amount
every
of
time
times.
On 4th and 15?
Yeah, if we're down by 2 scores, there's no sense in not. Because I wonder how much. It would be interesting. What does the conversion rate go? I mean, you don't want it to go from 95 to 95% of teams don't recover the ball on a onside kick. You don't want it so every 50. What do you want the number to be?
It has to be worth it to take a
of
chance.
the time.
Yeah, it has to be worth it to take
You
a
don't want it
chance.
to be too much though, either. Where it's
I
just like
think 20 to
damn.
25%. I think 4th and 15, I think, is a good number because if you have a 1st and 20, you have a hard time getting that first down, right? Period.
Right.
Any team. And so you really, and the benefit is it can't be a running play. It has to be your defense, your offense, and your quarterback has to be able to. I guess you could try to do running, but I don't know many people in their right mind that's going to dial up a running play on 4th and 15.
Just the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so I think that it's and T Money does have a point, right? That taking away the special teams, it does hurt the people who are playing special teams from the perspective of checks. Their value isn't as high, being that they're not actually contributing as much. They are sitting on the sidelines for the majority of the game, outside of maybe a punt return, or a field goal attempt. But I still like this. I think it makes it more exciting for the people watching. I don't know. I feel like it puts the game in the best players' hands. That's what I think is how it should be.
Yeah, well, especially when you made the onside kick obsolete by not allowing them to run ahead. Like it's just almost like physically impossible to get down there. The only time you can get it is if you find some really soft hole and you have a kicker or the kicker like kicks it directly at somebody, it hits them in the face.
So you're saying like if you kick the ball into the soft hole?
Yeah.
I was gonna say something about that, but I was like, nah, I'm just gonna leave it.
Stick the ball in the soft hole.
Hey,
right.
I do have one question though.
Go ahead.
Real quick, and I'll be done. With this rule they're putting in place, like say you have 4th and 15 and you get a holding penalty, does that make it 4th and 25, or is that a failed attempt and they get it at the 25-yard line, or vice versa? If there's a defensive PI,
Based on what I'm seeing, they have it very basic for the moment, and I'm assuming those things are going to be things that come into play. Right. But it says in making a first down, a team will maintain possession, and a new series of downs will continue as normal. Okay. If it's unsuccessful in making a first down, the result will be a turnover on downs, and the team B, which is the defense on that 4th and 15 try, will take possession at the dead ball spot. So that's really the extent of what they've said, but I imagine that it's going to be similar to like if you get a holding call on the 2-point conversion. It's not an end, but you can decide to then go for the field goal instead if you want. So you may be able to adjust
it then if you wanted to. I got you. Okay, cool.
All right, it's the C3 Panthers podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. We're live every Tuesday night. Somehow we find a way to talk about all this goodness that is the Carolina Panthers. We're going to finish up the show with an Ice Up segment. Go ahead, smash the thumbs up button, subscribe. You can find us on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts, and also, as always, on YouTube, Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. I'm going to start us off, and I got an easy Ice Up. It's nice and soft. But I listened to the whole damn Joe Brady press conference today, and I know I'm a couple of days late, but it was a bunch of nothing on nothing. But really, I'm icing up the Panthers media, like all of the media in Charlotte, and everybody asking the question, how do we listen to this mofo not answer questions for 16 minutes and nobody asked him, what do you think about coaching Cam Newton?
Yeah.
Not a single person asked a fucking question about Cam Newton. Now, to me, that's a travesty. I know he's going to say, I haven't had a chance, but at least ask the question. Because you heard him talk about C-Mac like this.
You said, obviously, that you haven't watched the tape on specific players, but how much easier does a guy like Christian McCaffrey make your job as an offensive coordinator and as a playmaker or play caller? Yeah, look, again, talking personnel, it'd be an injustice, but like everybody knows Christian McCaffrey. And so, I'm excited to be able to see what he does well and be able to work with.
He could give that same damn answer for Cam. Or he could just say, I don't know. But nobody had the balls to ask it. So ice up to all y'all ballless, non-Cam loving, want them out of here, mofos. Ice up.
Ice up. Ooh, can I go?
Yeah.
I got a good one. It's kind of personal this week. I think I told you guys about this, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I can't wait to hear this story in person. Please give the details.
I'll tell the whole story. Okay, so I'm a mailman by day, and the way the mail kind of works is whenever you have everybody has their own assigned route, and when somebody's out that day based on sickness or vacation or whatever, we split that route into 6 different parts, and then each person takes an hour or whatever off that route and runs it. So I'm delivering mail last I think Tuesday it was, and I'm delivering mail on another person's route. So I'm not familiar with all the names that are on this route, right? So my job by law as written is to deliver mail as addressed, okay? And I want everybody to know that when your mailman delivers mail to you that says or current resident, that's your mail, okay? Like whether you want it to be or not, if you don't like it, throw it away. That's your mail because you are the current resident of that address. So I deliver mail to this guy, and I go out throughout the neighborhood, and I finish at the neighborhood. I'm about to pull out of the neighborhood, and I see a gentleman walking up the street, and he has mail in his hands. So I figure maybe I delivered to the wrong address. Maybe he has outgoing mail that he didn't expect me to be there that early, whatever. So I stop and pull over to talk to this gentleman and see what's going on. And he begins to cuss me out and tell me how dumb I am. And I'm not going to use the select words he gave me, but I'm trying to explain to him that this mail says or current resident, and then I'm not the regular carrier in this route, so I deliver the mail as I should, and he then punches me in the face.
Oh shit!
Yeah, he punches me in the face. So I'm looking down at the mail trying to explain it to him, and as I look up, I see a fist coming at me, and he punches me in the face. Glance my chin, hit my chest, whatever. This guy's in his lower 60s, so I didn't really think anything of it. Just kind of a weak kid anyway, but whatever. And I just kind of looked at him and said, okay, I'm going to go call the cops. That's assault, and I'm going to go call the cops on you. So I pull in front of his house, and I call the police, and we're about 2 miles from the police station, maybe not even that far, 2 miles from there, from the city I live in. And as I'm on the phone with the dispatcher who's sending the police out to me, he comes out of his house with an axe, swinging it, just swinging it, right? Telling me to get off his property. And I'm not, now granted, I'm not on his property. I'm parked across the street in front of my truck, which your street and the last 4 feet of your house, are not really your property anyway. Your property line are never your property anyway. That's the government's property. But I'm across the street, and this guy's swinging this axe at me and telling me he's going to mess me up. He's using a lot more select words, but he's going to jack me up. And I'm on the phone with the dispatcher, and I just tell her, I'm like, look, this is what this guy's doing. What should I do? And she was like, just wait for the cops to get there. And about that time, I heard the sirens come in. As soon as
they come and shoot his ass?
They should have. They should have. As soon as he hears the sirens coming down the street, okay, he walks over to his little stoop. He sits down and he tosses the axe about 4 or 5 feet away from him and sits down, crosses his hands, sits there all nice and politely, right? So to this guy is the guy I'm saying ice up. I'm not going to give his name out there because I shouldn't do that. But to this guy, I say ice up. But I checked up on this week. I did press charges on him, and this week they went to go serve the warrant for his arrest, and he has submitted himself to a mental hospital.
Oh.
Yeah. He submitted himself to a mental hospital saying he's mentally unstable. So that's one way to stay out of jail, I guess. And maybe he is. I'm not sure. I don't really care either way. To this guy at 218 Center Street in Kernersville, North Carolina. I'll give that much information. Ice up.
I tell you one thing is you got a lot of fucking, you either old, mentally unstable, you gotta fuck with the mailman.
Oh man, I'm
don't
telling
fuck
you,
with the mailman.
Good luck.
That's a federal employee, bro. Like,
did I tell you?
If he has a rap sheet, that's 10 years in prison, man. That's a federal employee, assaulting a federal employee. Yeah.
The only thing is, I might have said it on this show before, is that a guy I would work with said one time, because I was talking about how life, like laundry, it just keeps coming. My kids, just never stops. And he said, he said somebody asked a postal worker what made them go postal. And he said, because the mail just keeps coming.
Yeah. Dude, I literally got off work today about 45 minutes before we went live.
Gosh.
like I'm telling you, man, it never stops, dude. It never stops.
All right, so. CK, what you got for us?
Man, somebody else go.
All right, Cody.
I'm the only other somebody, so I guess I'll go. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of low-hanging fruit. I won't give the ice up pick that I want to give just because I'm not down to get my mentions flooded on Twitter. But I will say I'm going to ice up Antonio Brown. Dude, what a
oh my gosh.
Thank you for doing that.
Dumbass.
He's mental, man.
epic proportions. And yeah, like me and my brother were talking about this. This Aaron Hernandez documentary came out on Netflix. I'm sure people watched it. And to talk about how messed up his brain was after they did the autopsy. And dude, Antonio Brown has to have the worst case of CTE ever, dude. Like I don't know of anyone that has ever self-sabotaged their own career in such a short amount of time. But the reason I say all of this is because today police were called to his house because apparently there was a battery and a burglary charge put out on Antonio Brown.
So, he robbed a truck driver or something, and then
something, and then a few weeks ago, his children were being put into the cop car because the baby mama wanted them to leave, and he's out there on IG Live,
Instagram,
broadcasting this to the entire world, cussing up a storm, shouting at the officers, calling them all kinds of names under the book, making it a race issue. And dude, the dude is just he's not well, man. Like, this dude is not okay.
He's nutso, dude.
No, he is a nutso. He's a buffoon. His agent dropped him. I mean, come on, dude. You have ruined your entire career in less than a year, and you have no one to blame but your own damn self. He might have been the best receiver in the NFL and just pissed it all away. I couldn't imagine having that kind of wealth and money and livelihood and then just throwing it away for nothing. Antonio Brown, ice up, son.
All right. CK, did you come up with anything?
Man, so I've been thinking about this one, and this, I don't know, man. I'm torn, but I'll tell you guys anyway. So as I've mentioned before, I'm a debt collector, right? I call people up, and my job is to collect on debt. And one of the things that they push is making sure you're dialing as many people as you possibly can constantly. It's called work rate. So you should have so many calls in an hour and whatnot. Well, a lot of things go into that, and today I felt like I was in preschool because I've never really been one to have this high work rate, but I've always exceeded my goals, beyond this. They decided to put somebody behind me to watch me work so that I can make sure my work rate was high. Like the whole day.
Wow.
Like when I'm telling you, bros, and they constantly were talking about, we need to get your work rate up. And I'm just like, I got to a point where I got combative with these boys, man. It was not good. He said, how do you have a work rate of 73, which isn't, we won 100. So I'm 73. And he said, what are you doing? And I said, getting paid. Because I'm like number one in the company in my number, like number one in the company, and they're sitting somebody behind me for this. But anyway, I felt like I was in preschool all day today, and so I felt like that. It's low hanging fruit. It's nothing crazy, but it's my life. So ice up, Eric and Patrick, and not the Patrick that was in the chat, but a different Patrick. So.
Well, somebody needs to stand behind the chat room and tell them to get their thumbs up rate up.
Yeah.
Thumbs up rate up.
All right. That's the C3 Panthers podcast. Let's get the heck out of here. I got to work tomorrow. First day of class for me back in the delayed start world. So I got to go meet a bunch of people tomorrow. And that's it. All right, guys. We'll see you next Tuesday night.
Peace out.
Later.
Peace and
Have
love.